I really don't know what how large of a crowd we're going to have today because people have lives and a lot of people have schedules already that include Wednesday morning. So it may just be the few of us. Um, I just want to say a couple words about that. It is really weird. Other schools do this, where usually Monday classes, but sometimes Friday classes get cut short because of holidays and they kind of swipe a day from another class. I'm pleased that this is going to be on YouTube later today because this material is just flat out too cool for us to keep to ourselves. It really is that special. Um, so let me let more people in, and then I'll tell you more about what's in store for today.
Hello.
Good morning. Good morning.
Sorry I can't be on camera today. My camera's a bit finicky right now.
Oh, thanks for telling me. I appreciate that. I really do. So, you know, uh, I really do understand people's cameras being off. Uh, I don't always sound like I do, right? Because I'm always trying to get everybody involved. Uh, part of it is, a little part of it is selfish. It's like really hard to teach to nobody. So I appreciate Gabriel. Thank you for having your camera on. There's somebody I could see. Everybody else has got like a, gray box today. Or an illustration. Folks, I understand. I know some of you have had camera issues the whole semester, and I don't hold it against you. But if your cameras are working, try to join in just to make it a little easier for your teacher. How sometimes uh, I do something too quickly, and other times I repeat it too many times. That's usually because I'm not getting any feedback. I'm trying to guess whether people get the material. All right, I want to move forward. So, I want to tell you why I'm excited about today. You know, there's a handful of skills that animators like to talk about. They're essential and kind of fundamental to what we do. And we visited a few of them this semester. We started with a lot of technique. How do you make objects move in general, frame by frame? Each drawing. Doesn't matter if someone's talking, walking, or if it's a bird flying, the frame by frame approach. And we saw what its limits are. We did a little shape tweening. That wasn't a big part of the course. And then we moved mostly into classic tweening with some motion tweening involved. We just saw how efficient it can be. But that was all nerdy. It's just technologies. And other animation programs are going to have likely to have parallels to some of those things, and they'll also have different methods. But what's shared? There's a few things that are distinctly shared. Um, walk cycles, really, we're human beings. We do a lot of stories about people. We've got to learn how to make them walk. Foundational thing you're going to find in a lot of animation environments, walk cycle. Turnarounds, and they're simply called turnarounds like we did that was last week, wasn't it? Yeah, I believe turnarounds. And even though sometimes you're just turning like this, you know, maybe to pet the cat, hey, Andromeda, everybody's looking at you. But, you have to be able to turn, even though we were doing total 360s. So I would say walk cycles, turnarounds, talking. Now, today is going to be largely talking. I mean, we're going to make people talk. But that's not all. If I was going to talk to you like this, hey guys, how is everything? I don't know how this would get pretty scary after a while. I need to blink. I think it's kind of hard to make anybody talk realistically without them blinking. And what's more, even if they blink but their eyes don't move, so they're talking to you and they're blinking on occasion, they're, really, the eyes just gotta, it's gotta wander a little bit. So I think I want to start with eyes. Now, I want to say something that we come across with every new technique that I discuss, really. You know, how much of this is stylistic? How much technological freedom do we have? Like, for example, you could do everything this semester frame by frame if you chose to. You could have ignored all the tweening and do it all frame by frame. But how realistic is that? You know what I mean? Like you know, where's all that time going to come from? You know, I can make someone cross a city in an hour or two of work. But if I'm doing it frame by frame, it's a day or two of work. I'm drawing everything. So even when it comes to eyes blinking, there's going to be a certain amount of leeway. And you know, one thing that's I'm a little concerned with since we're coming to the end of the semester is how uptight we're going to be about the steps that I used in this class to communicate something. You know, for example, we did a lot of these animated graphic symbols. The first one we did was a bird flapping its wings. And the whole idea was if you stored the flapping, you could choose where the bird goes, you could change your mind, you can have 6 birds without having to redraw them. But I could have skipped all that. We could have just made it flap right on the main stage, just draw everything ourselves. It just would have been a drag if you discovered later you needed 5 seconds more, you know, another near 100 frames more. So you'd have to go back and draw more flapping. But the way that I showed you, by storing the cycle of the wings flapping, you didn't care about how long it was going to take. Why do I bring this up? Well, we're going to do more of these specialized graphic symbols today. And the first one, which is the eye blinking and looking around, I want you to get the heart of what we're doing so that you could improvise on this. You could do it a different way. You know, my wife always laughs when I make someone talking because since I have their eyes blinking and looking around randomly, they're not looking in any way matching what they're saying. You know, often when I say something important to you, I stop looking around and I look, you know, right at you. If we store the eyes in the library so they're just looking around, they're looking around randomly. Here's something I want to show you guys something. Give me a minute. I want to grab it. This will take 1 second. Have you guys ever seen this book? Now listen, I want to.
Yes.
You have, Marilia? Do you have it? A copy of it?
No.
Listen, I want to say something to you guys. Those of you who love animation most. Oh no, what happened? Hey Jacob, are you okay? It looked
Yeah,
like
I'm
it looked like
fine.
he suddenly shot. You know, and down he went.
Hmm. No, I'm just on my bed.
I know that's. I don't mind as long as it doesn't make you pass out.
No, I'm just.
Listen, you know, I should have told you this about this a month ago, so you could have asked for it for the holidays from somebody. It's an expensive book, but I want to say something about this. This is the #1 book for folks like us. You know, everybody talks about this same book, right? And you know the 12 principles we were looking at early this semester. You know, we watched the Illusion of Life video. This is all about that same stuff, but this guy's just the master, just the absolute. Look at the walk cycle. You know, so it's deep stuff. You know, so I just want to say if you love animation and you'd really like to have a book around that's not at all about technology, it's about like how to make stuff move. You choose your own technologies. This is the book. I would highly recommend finding a used copy, you know, which is easy on Amazon, amazon.com, because they're probably going to cost you half as much. But if you like the idea of having a book around with a lot of drawings in it, a lot of drawings. You know, we did walk cycles, but this is like, well, how does someone really overweight walk? And how does someone super skinny walk? And how does someone who thinks they're beautiful walk? You know, what about running? And what about coming straight at you? I just want to mention it. So this is the Animators Survival Kit. You know, in fact, I'm just going to drop that name right in the chat. It's the closest thing to a Bible that animators have. Why am I bringing it up right now? You know, I'm bringing it up mostly because he talks about folks like me. He says, well, listen, you know, if you do a walk cycle and you store it, it saves a lot of work later on, but it might not be the same as if you were actually doing it yourself so someone could stop and think, you know, uh, do different kinds of activity that are unique to that feel, that individual. So I have to agree. If one had that kind of time, I would do less of these stored graphic symbols. All right, anyway, I want to move on, and I'll try in any useful way to point out what the difference would be, whether you're storing stuff in the symbol, in the library, or whether you're going to try to do it on the main stage. So look, I want to share my screen. There's more than one thing I need to show you, but let's get to the handout, see if there's any kind of you know, background stuff that we need to manage. We get the door there. All right. So, all right, I want to just go over some stuff before we dive into this new material, like I said, that I'm rather excited about. There's only 4 classes left, right? And I know everybody's pretty clear there's no class this Friday. So next Friday is already December 4th, you know, and these are the dates we have. And I have to be honest with you, really. This is an exam week date, this last one, 12/18. And I don't know, I kind of feel like the rules are a little gray about exam week because we're not going to have an exam. Give me 1 second here. I'm trying to. One minute. I'm trying to. Okay. So I'm deciding about this day. I'm planning on treating this as like an extras kind of day because we're not going to have an exam. We have a lot of homework instead. But anyway, this is what's coming forward. All right. I do want to say how that affects us, though. That basically means if you owe me work, you have to kick it. You know, you really got to get busy. I really don't want anyone thinking they can give me all the work on the last day and pass this class. It's just not going to happen.
Well, Professor, I was gonna ask you about that too, because I just got my computer fixed and I still put everything in the late
Yeah,
home.
absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I'm open minded really about that. You don't have to worry about the grades being impacted too much, especially because you had computer issues, Zach. So you could relax a little on that. But you've done some of the homework and then the computer went down, or is,
Yeah, I did everything except for homework 9 is in the late homework. But that was right after. Like after I did homework 9, then my computer just shut down.
Gotcha. So listen, you don't really have any worries in terms of impact for that stuff being in the late folder. The main reason I have a late folder though is because I can't look in every folder every week to see which one's new and which one's old. So the late folder means, oh, okay, this homework passed, this person did it. You know, I don't always reduce grades, especially this year in 2020, you know, because, you know, we didn't expect to be learning this way, you know, so a lot of people got caught off guard. Their computers weren't behaving, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying, you know, so you don't have to worry too much about it. So I did one thing though. I changed my mind yesterday about something because life is so dramatic and so weird that, you know, what my plan was, I was going to make a one homework per week expire so that people don't get lazy and just keep putting stuff off forever. So today I was going to sort of cross off class 6. I was going to say you can't do that assignment. That was the leaf turning thing, you know. Then I thought about it. And I was like, damn, with everything going on, and you know, we don't know each other. Some of you guys have sick family. You know, a lot of people do right now. I had to figure out a way to make this a little kinder. So this is what I came up with, and I hope it's helpful to some of you. You know, Zach, you're in good shape because you're really not very far behind. So I think you'll be fine. But I just want to point out to anybody who may have it worse. I'm accepting all the homeworks from class 6 and on, and I'm not giving any more homework, right? So this is it, right? This is the list of what I'm accepting right here, right? Um, so it's, you know, 5 homeworks, you know, and if there's any reason I should take anything earlier, then you are going to have to send me an email and convince me to do that because that just doesn't seem realistic anymore. That stuff's ancient, you know. I mean, if you think about it, this is almost 2 months old, you know. So in any case, I'm extending that deadline, but look at this, please. I need them by the 11th. Absolutely by the 11th. After that, it's exam week, and I really shouldn't be collecting homework, right? Even if we're coming back for the 18th, I have some special stuff I would do with you that day. This is the deadline, the 11th, right? That's a good long time from now. You know, it's about 17 days, you know? So unless you fell wildly behind, that shouldn't be a problem. All right. Listen,
Professor,
yeah, please.
is it about the project, the extra credit project? Is that still on or?
The extra credit will be open the entire semester. Same thing with December 11th
Okay.
as the final date. Yeah, by the way, you know, that assignment is great, even if you didn't do it this semester, just to get a copy of everything, because it's such a great assignment to do, just to learn more, you know. But yeah, that door's open, Gabriel. Anybody else? Anybody else have any questions, homework wise, or last dates, or any of that kind of thing? No. All right. So let me take a quick look over here. So yeah, listen, I've not upgraded the Blackboard since like the 10th. So it's been about 2 weeks. So if you've given me late work in the last 2 weeks, I haven't seen it yet, but don't worry about it. I absolutely will. The video playlist is up to date. Listen, this is something I want to tell you about, this Discord server thing. Can I ask you guys a question? And I'm going to open my chat also to, because I know some of you have, you know, microphone issues and other stuff. How many of you guys have ever heard of Discord or the Discord server?
I have.
I have a Discord.
You do, really? So I'm
Yeah.
new to this. Maybe it's an age thing, but like Tiffany, who couldn't be here today because she has 2 jobs, so she works on Wednesdays, set up a Discord server for us. And those of you who know more about it, if I say something dumb, politely correct me, all right? Because I don't want to mislead anybody. But here's the idea. So we now have our own private chat universe. I believe you could post stuff. You could even talk in audio if you really want to. You could post questions about a homework because I'm not getting back to you in time to see if a peer can help you. You could show off your work to each other. This was her brilliant idea. If we make use of it in the last few weeks, I'll probably do it for the, you know, my other classes next semester. And we always had an issue that there was no easy way for you guys to help each other or just to show off, you know, and inspire each other, even share things. You know, oh, I just got this tablet, or I know this program that I love to draw, and all that stuff. So she set up the Discord server, and I want to say something about what I discovered this morning. So here it is. So listen to me, especially if you're new to this, and then if you're not, maybe we can ask. You know, asks one, you know, someone in the class to help us out. So if you want to know more about what it is, this is a YouTube video that was helpful in me to learn more about what it is, right? But Tiffany's already set it up. So I want to say 2 things about it. She wrote a lengthy handout about how to set it up, and I made it into a PDF. So if anyone wants the lengthy version of how to prepare it, click this link when you have the time. But I have to say, what I did this morning was I just click this. So this you know, she told me, well, this is once you're set up, use this link to join our server, which is our private space just for us, this group, this animation group. But what I did today was I just click this and followed the instructions right from there, and I connected right to it. You know, so here we are, and yeah, oh yeah, see, Tiffany answered me already. This is it, the server telling me that she's coming. So listen, folks, you know, in short, this is my opinion. If you're interested in joining in, showing off your work to each other, leaving questions, that kind of thing, I personally think you could just click this and set up your account. It'll walk you through the instructions. So listen, the few of you who already have experience with this, am I wrong about any of that? Can you please correct me? I don't want to share wrong information with the class. Do I have it roughly right about what Discord is and that type of thing? Yeah. So do any of you guys think that you might use this for this class? Possibly. Good.
Maybe.
All right, because you know,
Maybe.
who knows? If I can drop in now and then, I'll drop in too, just to see what's going on. All All right. I see some other people are interested and possibly interested. Yeah. So those of you who said you already have Discord's account, it's going to be extra easy for you. I guess you just click that special link that Tiffany prepared for us so you can join our private group. I hope to know more about this soon. Anyway, I think it's brilliant. Great way to solve the fact that we can't meet in the classroom. And frankly, even there, people were shy. It took a long time for people to make alliances. Folks, listen, I just want to say one last little thing. I'm anxious to get to the new material. But, I went to the School of Visual Arts when I was young in Manhattan also. And I came from out of town, et cetera, et cetera. Would you believe that I still have friends from college then? And the only reason I bring it up is who else was I going to talk to about how difficult what we do is? About what the art life is like and where the cool new thing is and, all of that. So I realize it's hard to make friends sometimes in the city and it's hard, particularly during COVID. So I don't know, this might help out. All right, let me move on. So again, this is about the Discord stuff. Again, Tiffany is available every Wednesday. I even, fixed her hours every Wednesday and Sunday during these hours. You could always email her, right? But, you have to check your own email if you're going to email her. She's had issues with that. She writes back and people don't respond. But you could, during those times, if you want, just click this link if you want some help from Tiffany. She's really easy to get along with, and she knows my class inside and out. All right. More support from Adobe. I talked about this too often. And again, the car project is indeed still open and has its own unique handout. All right, folks. I want to get busy, and I want to tell you what to expect right now. If all goes well, right? It's a long class. Everybody's tired. We'll see if all this is possible, is what I want to do. We're going to draw one eye, right? And it's going to blink. It's going to look back and forth, pause a lot, that kind of thing. What we want to do is we want to make an eye that doesn't have, listen to this, that doesn't have an obvious inside like your eye does. The inside of your eye is really different than the outside. But I'd rather make it not so obvious, balanced, symmetrical, no tear gland. Why? Because if that goes well, you just copy the eye and that person is going to be looking back and forth with both pupils coordinated. So this is another great reason of why we're going to make a graphic symbol out of the whole thing. If your eye had a tear gland, you wouldn't be able to duplicate it. The tear gland, one of them would be on the outside and one would be on the inside. So you'll see what I mean as we get busy with it. All right, so we're going to start there and then we're going to build it into a whole head and hopefully get it to talk. In fact, just to get you guys interested, let me show you one more thing, just a sample. You know what? Let's do this together. Could everybody get today's assets if you haven't already? Because my samples are in there. So as I always say, you can get the assets right from here on the handout, or you can get it from our homepage. These assets should be easy to use, right? Because the only time we had problems with my assets was that one day when we needed to import assets to the library and all hell broke loose that day. In fact, the only problem was when we tried to import layered assets. I forgot what we were doing that day, but after that, I got us all separate JPEGs and it was fine. So these assets are fine. I open them up, whoever you're used to doing that. And if you're in the habit of moving them, go ahead and move them and get there. I want to show you something. We're going to need this audio later, right? So I'm going to come back to that, but I want to show you something here. Somebody got locked out. It's got to be maddening when your internet goes down right in the middle of a class. You come back and you're like missed 5 minutes. I hate that. And for me to keep saying, oh, just go to YouTube, how are you going to find those 5 minutes? But anyway, you're all managing. So listen, we just downloaded the assets. I think Kayla just returned. She must have gotten bumped because of the internet. So just make sure you have the assets out. We're looking in the samples here. These literally are just samples for you to look at, except for two things. So I want to give you a peek at one that I particularly like. I'm going to show it to you as a SWIFT. Last night, the rain spoke to me slowly, saying what joy to come falling out of the brisk cloud, to be happy again in a new way. Notice him blinking. Earth. That's what it said as it dropped, smelling of iron, and vanished like a dream. These are the same eyes. To the branches, to the grass below. Then it was over. Something like that's the rough goal, right? So you can see I needed those eyes to behave a certain way for him to be believable, and naturally the mouth, right? And we're going to try some cool new features as regards getting him to talk. So that's the rough goal. I just want to mention there's a simpler one here called Voice and Ice Simple Sample. I gave you the FLA for anyone who really wants to study the second one. The numbered ones are here for a specific reason I want to show you. Because here's the FLA, here's a GIF of it, here's one, here's the FLA, so you could open it up in Adobe Animate. This one came with a video. This is the one we were just looking at. I didn't give you the FLA on this one because it was particularly complicated with all the rain and stuff going on. But there's a video and a SWIFT. All right. I want to just give you a peek at two more things. So this is where we're going to start. We're going to be doing this in a couple of minutes. This guy is really paranoid looking. So I want to give him a different kind of glance. He's really looking around too quickly. And this is what the simple one looks like if anyone wants to study the FLA. I'm trying to learn a little bit about voiceover. It's a very simple style. My test file. All right, folks, let's start with the eye, but I do want to mention the two most important things in this folder are this. Yeah, it's a chart of mouth shapes in a very cartoony style, right? And then I gave you the same chart using sounds like ah, t, l, d, all makes the same mouth, e. But I showed you another one here, chart 2, with a more photographic set of examples of the exact same sounds. There's ah, t, l, d, e. So we're going to be using these heavily later. But right now we're going to start with the I. So we could just put this aside. Folks, listen, always remember my class, you just interrupt me if you got a question. Turn on your mic, shout it out. Since I don't have Tiffany to keep checking the chats today, I'm going to try to keep my eye on it myself. All right, then. Let's open Animate. I think I'm going to go with a standard size. I do want to mess with other sizes before the semester's over, but not today. So I'm going with 640, 480, and definitely the frame rate of 24. We're going to make mouths move today, so you really want to make sure you don't have to do more drawings than necessary. Now, I want you to join me in something, and I want to use your imagination. I want to show you something. We're going to need an eyeball to start. And, really, I often make my characters are just crazy colors. But I want to show you something. I'm going to make it like something like that big because later on I'm going to copy it. I'm going to make a nose and a mouth and a whole head, right? So I don't want to make it huge. We could change it later without any problem, but I just want to point out this might be easier. So I'm going to ask you to start by just drawing a simple circle. While you're doing that, I want to just open up something over here. So have a look at this for just a second. I'm going to be doing this with you, so you don't have to worry too much. You just made your oval, right? And we're going to create a, we're going to turn it into a symbol, a graphic symbol, and we're going to call it I. But right after that, most of what we're going to do is going to be inside the graphic symbol, inside symbol editing mode, all the blinking and all the looking around. All right, so here we go. I'm going to zoom in on it, make it easier to see. So I selected it and I did Command plus. I don't think I want this stroke on mine, so I'm going to take my stroke off. It's up to you. But then I want you to select it. So you can keep the stroke on if you want. It's your choice. But I want you to select it, Control click, and convert to symbol. Right? Graphic symbol, definitely. And let's just call it I. Now, I'm glad you're all here. I'm pretty sure everybody who's coming is in the room right now because I don't want anyone to miss this step. You got to double click it at this stage to get into symbol editing mode, right? Because we really need all that stuff to happen inside of it. I could double click it here, or I can go to the library and double click it. I'm going to double click it right here. To know that you're in symbol editing mode, always check the top left, right? The top left, it'll say scene 1, and then next to it, it'll say the name of the graphic symbol. Listen, I know that's simple. I don't mean to be insulting. I just want to make sure everybody got the right start. Any questions so far? Right? You made that circle. You just made it a graphic symbol. It's going to be an eye pretty soon, right? But you had to double click it. You have to check that you're in symbol editing mode. All right. Okay, great. So we're going to get busy with these layers down here. I'd like you to rename this layer. Oops. Hang on a second there. I just dragged things around and made it worse. There we go. I want you to rename this layer. Please call it eyeball. I want you to make a layer above it. So you rename this one eyeball using the plus sign. You make a layer above it. I'd like you to call this one iris plus. And that's because it's going to be the color of the eye, the black pupil also, and perhaps a shine. So be sure that you're doing this on the next layer. This thing's going to move. The eyeball's not going to move, but the stuff we're about to draw is. In fact, could you lock that lower layer? Just lock the lower layer like I'm doing here. Make sure you're on the iris layer. And now you just want to pick, you want to use the same tool. And basically you want to do something like that. It's going to be whatever color you want the eye to be. Picky guy. I'm going to go with red eye today. All right, you can make that any size you want, of course. You know, this, we have a lot of freedom with that type of thing. I'm going to put the black pupil on it. So I'm getting the oval tool again. You know, by the way, I think I'm just going to, you okay over there? I think I'm just going to click the stroke box and tell it I don't want strokes at all. It's personal choice. There's going to be a pupil. I just created a hole in there because I'm in merge mode. You know, now that I think about it, I wish I wasn't. I wish I'd gone into object mode, but I don't want to mix too many subjects. So I think I'm just going to Command Z out of that and do it a little differently. See, if I'd been in object mode, these wouldn't be making holes behind when I change my mind. But right now, I want to keep it simple. I'm going to add one more thing on mine. I'm going to add a little highlight. So I'm just going to get myself white and pop this there. I want to point something out. This is on one layer, right? So what's going to happen is that's the part that's going to move. What we need next is going to be a lower lid layer and an upper lid layer because he's going to blink. I just want to say something though. If all goes well today, you'll understand enough that you could draw this in a completely different way. You know, there's so many ways to look at it. Sometimes I'll just eliminate the lids. There's other ways to make people look like they're blinking. I've seen people do it where the whole eye is a black dot And blinking is just the black dot flattening out. One shade, you know. All right, right now we're going to get a little more complicated. So I'd like you to make a layer here, and I'd like you to call this one lower lid. And I'm going to ask you to make one more layer above it and call it upper lid. We're only going to need 4 layers for this particular part of the show. Got an eyeball on the bottom already, and it's locked. I got Iris Plus, you know, with all the red, the black, the white on my case. I think I'm going to lock it. I just made lower lid and upper lid. Let's go to the lower lid. Highlight that layer because you want to draw there now. So last class, I made a big deal about the pencil tool. And I gotta say, this program has just the coolest pencil tool. You know, I like this tool in other programs, but this one's got the best. And I'm gonna use it to make the eyelid. The pen tool, for people who are comfortable with it, would be an even better choice, I believe. But I'm gonna go with the pencil tool today. So here's the pencil tool. Now I wanna remind you that the pencil tool draws with strokes, and you fill them afterwards. And then you decide whether you want to keep the outlines or not. So right now I've got a black stroke color, right? And that's fine. And I'm not even really concerned with how stylish the stroke is because I may not even keep it. You know, if I think I might keep it, I might play with these stroke size and width. So I just change them. It can be a fancier kind of stroke. It's 2 points, it's got a fancy shape, just in case I want to keep it. Now I want to show you something before you join me. Be sure you're on the right layer. You got to be on lower lid. So I highly recommend you lock the other 2 layers that are already drawn. But watch this. You know, I want to put an eyelid around this, but it's hard to do, right? My hand's squiggling. One thing that would make it easier is for me to zoom back. I'm doing Command minus. And this way, since I'm just doing this by hand, I have less distance to go. Because what I want is something like this. I'm going to Command Z that because I'm going to get a little closer to the eye. And naturally, it's going to be this part that matters more. So I want to show you something. I got to cross it. I want to show a lot of the pupil, a lot of the iris. I'm going to zoom in because I want to show you a couple things. This side closed. Let's ignore these weird little things here. This side closed. This side's open, so I won't be able to fill it. I just want to point out, though, I could switch to the black arrow, grab this end, and cross it. Now this is closed. Now, there's a couple things I want to do. So you could draw it. Your pencil should be in smooth mode, right? Then I get the black arrow if I need to drag any line a little longer to make sure they cross. Now, there's a few things we want to do before we fill it. One, with the black arrow, anything that I don't want, I'm going to click on and delete. I only crossed those because I wanted to make sure it was closed, so the paint bucket will behave. Now, I could fill it now, or I could smooth it if I want. I want to show you what I mean by smoothing. I know we've done this before, but there's little like this in other programs. So I get my black arrow, and I'm going to double click this stroke that I made, right? Because I want to show you something at the bottom of the Properties palette. So I'm on the Properties palette. I'm on the Object tab of it, or not Frame, not Dock, Object. And way at the bottom, I see Smoothing. If your computer's got a very small screen, you might need to fold up some of these other parts to see it, right? Because it's usually way down at the bottom. I selected my black stroke, and I'm going to click Smoothing because I like that kind of look. And if I ever smooth it too much, I'll just back up. I really don't like this one corner, though. So I might just move it myself with the black arrow. Try some more smoothing. That's a little better. What else can you do? I think I'd like to fill this with a color before we go any further. All right, what about filling it? Well, I like using the paint bucket. So I'm going to get my paint bucket from the toolbar, and I'm going to choose a fill color, either from the toolbar or the properties palette. So it's not showing the fill on the properties palette, which is a little strange. So I'm going to do it from the toolbar. Paint bucket, I'm going to pick a color. I want to point out a couple things. At this stage, I could take the stroke out if I don't want it. But what's more interesting is I could take out part of the stroke. The bottom of the eyelid has the eyelash. So it might be kind of cool for me to leave that black line there. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Let's see if I get away with it. I'm going to click the upper stroke and delete it. Looks like I have to do that in more than one spot. But that left me with this cool line that feels a little like a shadow or an eyelash. I'm going to keep it. I want to ask you how you're doing because we have two possibilities how we could do the lower lid. How's it going so far? All right? Anyone in dire need? We're all right. I got to tell you
I'm
something.
good.
The one thing that's on my mind, some of you have been very interested in the difference between merge mode and object mode. And since we're working on separate layers, it becomes a little less important. Things will never merge if they're on separate layers. But I had a little trouble with the iris and the pupil because they shared a layer. I would have been wiser to do this whole thing in object mode, but I was too anxious to get started. So I think I'm going to stick with it the way that it is right now. All right, I want you to check your layers before we do the lower lid. And the way I like to do that is I'll hide them all by clicking this eye symbol. And then I'm going to show them from the bottom up just to see if they're right. This says eyeball, so I'm going to show it. There's the eyeball. This one says iris plus, pupil highlight. I'm going to show it. So that looks good. This one here says lower lid. So I already made a mistake. It's easy to fix. I put the upper lid on the lower lid layer. If anyone did that because you were following along with me, here's the easy fix. Okay, I better show them all. First, just open them all up, show them all. I'm just going to take this keyframe here. Since it's on the wrong layer, I'm going to press it, and then I'm going to press and drag it up. So I just moved it to the correct layer. You want your layers organized. The stuff gets complicated. So I just want to say quickly about the lower lid. You got a choice. You can hand draw it now. Just make sure you're on the right layer and hand draw it the same way you did the upper one. Or you could copy the upper one, which is what I'm going to do, right? And flip it. So I want to show you what that would look like if you feel like trying it, right? So I'm going to get my black arrow here and double click that, or even better, I'm going to click its keyframe. So I know I got the whole thing. I'm going to option drag a copy of it off to the side. I know I'm on the wrong layer, that's fine. I selected the whole eyelid and I option dragged a copy. Or you could alt drag a copy on Windows. But I'm going to get this tool. We've been using this a lot, the free transform tool. Because the free transform tool has this box around it, which is usually for scaling, or rotating. But I'm going to do this with it. I'm going to take the top handle and simply flip it upside down. A little faster than drawing. Now all I got to do is get it to the correct layer and drag it into position. So I copied the eye. I use the free transform tool to flip it upside down. And now this is how I'm going to move it. I'm going to use Command X to cut, right? That's the same as going to the edit menu and choosing cut. So it's just going to put it in memory. Then I'm going to come down to the keyframe I wish it was in for my lower lid layer, and I'm going to paste. Command V or edit menu, paste, Paste in place, paste in center, doesn't matter too much right now. So I'm going to get that into position. And I'm going to use the transform tool to fuss with it a bit. See if I could get it the way I want it. I'm going to rotate it a little. Figure out where I want to put it. I could make any changes I want at that point. I'm using my black arrow right now to modify them both. Even though they're on different layers, I could do that. By the way, this black arrow would still let me do this whether I was in merge mode or object mode. You know, everything's the same on the one object. It's just whether it'll merge with other objects or not. Okay, I'm hoping that everybody's got 4 sound layers, you know, 4 layers that they could just, you know, feel good about. And we better save this document, right? So this is going to be, you know, let's call it blinking and talking. So I'm going to save this to my desktop for now. You could save it anywhere you like. Let's do File Menu, Save. First, let me let this person in. All right, so I'm going to do, here I go, come back in, File Menu, Save. And I'm going to call mine, again, I'm going to call mine Blinking and Talking. Hopefully we'll get to the whole thing. I would really like that. And I'm going to save it on my desktop. Zhang, I want to mention to you that we already kind of did a lot. You probably had internet problems, so I'm not judging. But you may need to watch to be able to catch up. It's just too much to review right now. We're doing the eye blinking and looking around, but you'll be able to join us when we make the mouth move and talk. But for right now, it might be worth just, you know, watching, taking notes. So everybody else, you know, I want to say something about this. The goal is going to be to do this. It's going to be to take the eye here and, you know, have it move. And then we're going to make it blink. So we need time to do that. So I'm going to ask everybody to get to their timeline. You know, the question is, how long do I really need? I want the guy to look left, pause. So, you know, let's say pauses for a second or two. That could be as much as 40 frames. Come to the middle, pause, maybe another 40. Look right and pause. This is going to be, let's try 120 frames. It's not as much work as it sounds, but I do want you to get all the way out to frame 120. So I'm using this cool zoom feature at the bottom here. And I want to F5 all layers, all these layers. Not F6, F5. Got locked out again. Oh no, another person got locked out. There we go. Okay. So we have time. We used F5 just to give us time. How long is that? That's about, yeah, 5 seconds. About 5 seconds. We'll see if that works out. All right. Now, what I'd like for you to do is lock all your layers so we don't create a mess, and just unlock Iris Plus. Now, I want to say something about this. The eye is going to move, but I'm not so sure that it needs to tween. You know, so I'm kind of asking myself about that. Do we want it to tween? Let's try it without tweening, see how that goes. So the eye's in the middle right now, and let's let it sit there for about a second. So I want you to go to frame, say 24, about a second down the road. We're going to use F6 to copy that last keyframe. You're in the iris layer, you're going a second in, and you're going to use your F6 trick to copy the keyframe Now at this stage, right, I'm going to have that eye show up on the left. He's looking this way. And I would like that to hang out for a little while. So right now, let's see about giving that a second. Let's go over to 2 seconds. And, if we don't like this, we're going to take it out and do it a different way. So here we're going to 2 seconds, and I'm going to F6 again so I can bring it back to the middle. So I want to show you what I got so far. And this is what it would look like if I actually played this movie here. In a minute there. Oh, I can't do that just yet. Let me just do it right here. I'll explain why later. Okay. Not enough, but you can see the idea. It'll look much better when we make him blink. So in the first frame, he was looking forward. We went 1 second down and we F6'd so he could drag that stuff over to the left. We went another second to bring it back to the middle. This might be a little too mechanical, but I want to go another second anyway. F6 it again. And this time, let's put it on the right. By the way, one could squeeze these a little bit. We're on the outside because they're going around the eyeball. So I'm doing that on this side. And if I like that idea, I could find the other one where it's in the other corner and do the same. It will feel more like it's going around something. All right. Now, if I left it here, I want to show you something. I'm going to turn on my looping from the control menu. Let's see what that feels like. So the loop is pretty believable. It's just a little mechanical, and I would really like that eye to not flick around that much. In other words, I'd like it to stay in each position for longer. So I'm going to turn off that looping, and I want to point something out. If you fell behind, here's the deal. We started in the middle. We went a second down and moved it to the left. So we F6'd it to make a copy and move the copy to the left. We went another second down. Remember, it says seconds up here. This is the third time keyframe, and I brought it back to the middle. So I've got one in the middle, one moving left, and then back in the middle. A second later, we made the fourth keyframe to move it to the right. Now, if you remember, this started with the eye in the middle. So when this thing loops, the next stage is going to be in the middle again. The only thing I don't like is I just feel like the timing's wrong. So I'd like to point something out. I want you to see something for a minute. If I click up here and I F5, look what happens. All the layers get longer. So if you don't click in a layer, but you click up on this, let's call it the time ruler. When you F5, it'll add to all the layers, even if they're locked. So I'm going to take advantage of that because it goes too quickly from here to here. So I'm going to click up in the middle between those two keyframes, and I'm going to F5. Oops, in a second there, I'm going to click up here, right? I'm going to use my F5 trick to spread them apart. And anywhere I think it needs a longer pause, like maybe from here back to the middle, maybe it should stay in the corner longer. I'm clicking up here because I don't want the eyelids to disappear at the end, or any of the features to disappear at the end. All right. Could you save what you have? It's going to get deeper. If you need a hand, don't be shy at all. Ask me now. We could screen share, find some other way to deal with it. All right. I'm going to check my chats. Okay. I want to make the eye blink, right? And then if all goes well, the second eye is going to be a breeze because we're just going to copy this one, right? So let's see what we can do. want to get back to the beginning of the timeline. I'm going to lock all the layers except for the upper lid layer. If you need to double check, because I did ask you to do it earlier, but you know, things happen. I could hide that layer to make sure that the upper lid is the only thing there. So I'm going to unlock the upper lid, lock everything else so I don't have to worry about it. What about blinking? Well, you know, really frankly, it's mostly the upper lid that does the work on a blink. The lower lid, I think I'm just going to leave it, right? So how do I make it blink? Here's the upper lid the way it usually is. I'm going to go some random distance in, you know, maybe a second and a half. And I'm going to copy that upper lid there. So I'm choosing a frame, but I'm around frame 53 right now. I'm just at random, really. And I'm going to F6 it. And what am I going to do with it? Check this out. On the copy, I'm going to see if the black arrow is enough to close the eye. And usually it will be, but not always. I'm asking myself how much the outsides bother me. All right, I'm going to be a little pickier. So right now, I'm going to have this. That's not a blink. He just closed his eye. So what I got to do is open the eye again. And I want to show you something about this. In frame 1 of the upper lid layer, it's open. And in my case, way down here in frame 53, it's closed. How long do you close an eye when you blink? Well, it's just the blink of an eye, isn't it? Very fast, right? So when the eye closes, it just opens right away. Maybe 2 or 3 frames over at most, some fraction of a second. So what I want to do is I want to copy the drawing in frame 1 for that upper eyelid right after the closed eye. Basically, I'm saying I want to copy this right after the keyframe we just made. So what I'm going to do is hold down Option, drag that over. I don't want to make multiple copies, so if you twitch, you'll make multiple copies. I want to make one. Alt on Windows. Now, once you get the copy, if you're having a hard time getting down the timeline, just make your copy, Option drag the keyframe, right? But then let go of Option if you didn't get far enough and just press it and drag it yourself. You want to get it on the far side of the closed eyelid. See if I can make this easier to see. So here's the closed one now. Here's the open one. I'm going to do that again for anybody who wants to see it, but I just want to prove it to you that it works. That was a blink. The idea is you want this closed, followed very close next to it with open. A couple frames down. I'm going to get rid of this one because I would like to show you that just one more time. I'm going to clear that keyframe. So I'm stealing the original keyframe on this layer. And the way I'm doing it is I'm going to the keyframe, holding down Option, and dragging the copy over. Once I've got that copy, I don't need Option anymore, or Alt anymore if I'm on Windows. I already got the copy. It's just in the wrong time, wrong frame number. So I'll just click it to select it, then press and drag it, leapfrog right over that keyframe, and drop it off. I feel like you could use another blink. Now, luckily, once you got one blink, the others are easy. I'm going to copy both of these frames and just drag them over to the right. So once you have one blink, if you know, my people are always too blinky. You know, but I'm going to add another blink and see how it goes. Remember, it loops, so it's going to affect your timing when you see how it loops. But here's the easiest way to copy those 2 keyframes which made them blink. One closed, one open. You want to select them both, then Option drag them down the timeline, or Alt drag them. How do you select them both? I'm going to click one keyframe. Here it is, the close lid. I'm going to hold down Shift and click the other keyframe. You could see that's all bluish. I hope you could see that. So I got that whole segment now. I'm going to hold down Option and drag it way, way down that timeline for another blink. I'm going to undo that. So all I'm saying is click the keyframe you want, hold down Shift to get the other one. So you got both positions of the eyelid, and then Option drag it far down the road. If you'd like to see how this loops right now, here's what I suggest. Save it to make sure you don't lose anything, just to play it safe. Go to the control menu and turn on loop playback. This way, even right here in Animate, every time you play, it's going to loop. Control, loop playback. We've used this on and off, not a hell of a lot. But then I'm going to start it from the beginning and see how it loops. I'm pretty happy with it. All right, make sure it's saved, please. All right, I'm hoping you got some satisfaction out of that because we're about to copy that eye so it has a partner. And that's pretty cool when you see the two of them blinking in coordination and looking around together. It might have seemed like a lot of techie work, but it's going to save us many, many steps in the big picture. If your eye is done, you have to leave symbol editing mode to do the rest. You don't want to draw the entire head in here, right? This is just an eyeball that we get to keep borrowing when we need it, right? So we have to leave symbol editing mode. Now, if you look in the upper left here, the reminder that we're in the symbol called eye, or whatever you called yours, right? And I want to get back to the scene. So I'm going to click this little arrow here till I see scene 1. And right now I could back away to see the stage. Oops, got a little carried away. I want you to get back to the stage. So again, if you're inside the symbol, please leave. You definitely don't want to do anything else in there. Click the back arrow and you're in scene 1. I'm going to use this magnifier thing up in the upper right here so I could see the entire frame, show frame. I'm probably going to back up a little bit more. Now, what's kind of interesting is both eyes could share a layer on the main timeline. They won't affect each other. They're not actually going to tween anywhere. In fact, we've done no tweening at all, right, so far, right? So look what I'm going to do. I could get my other eye by going to the library and dragging one out. You know, if it was some cool monster, I might continue going, right? So you could just drag it right out of the library, or you could just option drag the symbol on stage. There's one problem now that we've left symbol editing mode, an easy problem to solve. The main movie is only 1 frame long. It's got a very short life, 24th of a frame. That eye was 5 seconds long. So for us to see all that activity, this timeline's got to be much, much longer than it is. Later on, we're hoping to make somebody talk. And it's a 30-second poem that he's going to read. So we could go out to 30 seconds right now and extend the timeline. And I actually think that's a very good idea. So I want you to make sure you're in scene 1. And then you want to get all the way out to 30 seconds so you could F5. I'm in scene 1. It's only got 1 layer, right? All those layers we were just working on were in the symbol, you know, essentially in the library. So I'm just scrolling on over here. Right here's a little scroll bar. And if it stops me around 22, 23 seconds, which it does, I'll just click here and it should let me, or let me just see. I guess I'll have to do it in stages. I'm going to click over here and F5 it, and then it lets me scroll even further. It's a little odd. But if it stops you, F5 as far as you can, then go the rest of the distance. So I'm going to go with 30. It's frame 720. We're way out there today. And again, I'm going to F5 it. Now, this is cool. Kind of like the timing on this one. You know, I gave him a long time in each eye pose. He's really looking, you know, looks one way, checks it out, done. He's looking forward, he's looking at us, and he's looking to the other side, he's checking things out. I'm content. I'm going to save this. Is it behaving? What do you guys think? Now, almost everyone's camera's off, so you could use, thank you, you know, reactions, those little emojis. You could chat me. I got the chat out today. Cool. I just love it when I see the second eye, you know. It looks so much more believable once there's the two of them coordinated, you know, looking like that. And we could have done all this by hand. In the past, you would have. The guy from the Animators Survival Kit, that's the way he would have done it. He would have just drawn the whole thing again. Technology was different at that time. But I'm really kind of loving it. Please be sure that you've saved it because we really want to take this quite a bit further. You know, I feel like we're just warming up a little, well, more than that. I want to add some simple stuff, then take a break, and then hit the heavy duty mouth, right? So I want to tell you what else is going to go on now and get a little busy before we break. I'm going to need a few more layers, right? And we could add as many layers as we want to make a head out of this. But the one layer that has to come last, I mean, the one drawing that has to come last is the mouth. The mouth is definitely going to be the most strenuous thing today, but probably the most satisfying also. But, you know, I'm going to make a head shape layer. You know, I'm put it underneath the eye naturally. I'm going to make a nose layer. I'm going to rename this the eyes layer and a mouth layer. I may add hair later or even ears. So this is what I'd like to show you. I want to rename the current layer because remember we're on the main timeline now. And I never mentioned naming this layer. Let's call it eyes. By the way, a lot of these steps are on the handout today. Detailed handout. I'm going to call this one eyes. I'm going to make another layer and I want to call it head shape. And this is going to have to be underneath the eyes because otherwise my head shape's going to hide them. So once I make that layer, call it head shape, I'm going to drag it down right underneath the eyes. And I want to say something about the color of your head before we draw it. Logic would tell me that it should be the same color as my eyelids, right? Because that's the way it is. You know. On the other hand, you know, we're essentially doing cartooning right now. You know what I mean? You got a lot of freedom. You want those eyes to look different? I've animated frogs. Tiffany's done owls for this assignment. They all have different kinds of eyes. So it's really up to you. If you do want to use this color, though, you can get the oval tool to start your head with, right? Actually, you can get the eyedropper first and click on the eyelid so it sets up a fill color and then switch to your oval. That's one quick way. The eyedropper will always let you borrow color. It thinks you're going to pour with the paint bucket, but you could ignore that. Go get the tool you want. So I'm going to pop a kind of head-like shape back here. Looks like an M&M. The candy, not the rap artist. And since I'm on a separate layer, I'm going to prove that to you, right? I'm on a separate layer. It's safe. I can do whatever I want with it. It's not going to mess with those eyes. So I need a bunch of changes. I want you to start with any shape, figure out what you want to do. Do you want the stroke or not? Do you want to move the eyes now that you've got more of a context for it? I want to do a little bit with that head shape before we get busy with the other features. So, we really went up a whole notch, maybe 3, 4 weeks ago. We had enough experience with the background technologies that we started getting involved with the figure, or the way people behave, or birds on one occasion. And all along, though, I keep suggesting different ways to draw. We could have drawn the head shape just with the pencil tool. You know the rules about overlapping. So you could have drawn a very elaborate head shape, just like you drew the eye. Just make sure the lines overlap. Use the black arrow to take out the extras. Right now I'm focusing a little bit like I did during the turnarounds from last week, about how I could work with geometric shapes and make them more personal, more specific. So I've got this shape going, and I'm going to get my black arrow then, because I want to make it more specific, as I said. So I'm working a little bit on the cheek area. It's already quite a bit better looking, right? I could, maybe change my mind about what kind of chin, might have. Maybe what kind of forehead I want. I can get to make a lot of changes, and there's a lot of freedom, So it's really about how you're feeling today. What kind of, what kind of person you want. I think I'm going to stick with this guy. All right. Whenever you finish anything, any step, please save. Save again. File menu save, or Command S, Control S, of course, on Windows. Let's lock that layer. For right now, I think I'm going to lock both the layers. So once you have everything where you want, we're ready to work on the nose and stuff. You know something? I think I want to say something quick about ears. Ears are very expressive. So I'll sometimes make ears move when somebody's talking or listening. But sometimes I won't, and if you're not going to make the ears move at all, just add them to the head. It's especially easy in merge mode. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to go down to the head shape layer and unlock it. So here I am on the head shape layer. I'm being very careful about that. And I'm going to get an oval. I'm not going to want a stroke for this because I want it to merge with the head. So I have the right fill color, but I don't want the stroke in my case. So I'm turning it off. Just because all I really want to do is this. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll do it next to the head so that it's easier for me to manipulate and also easier to copy, because I'm going to need 2 ears, won't I? So I started with a circle. I used the black arrow to adapt it, and then I option dragged a copy of it. I'm going to take this one and attach it to the head. This is now merged because I'm in merge mode. This one here, I'm going to flip with the transform tool, just like we did with the eyelids today. And I'm going to drag it over here. I just want to reiterate, if you think you wanted the ears to move, I could have done the same thing on another layer. If they're just going to move up and down, I could even have them on one layer. I don't need a left ear and a right ear layer if they're just going up and down. Right now, I'm not having them move at all, so it's easier just to merge it with the head. Okay. Still only have 2 layers, so I'm going to ask you to make a nose layer. You could stack these in whatever order you want, just as long as the head's on the bottom. Make sure you're on the nose layer. And draw a nose. I just want to say very quickly, Last week, the nose was the hardest part because we were making the head turn. So we really had to think about how different it was from the front. Very different. You know, this triangular looking thing almost to how it looks like that. This time the head's not turning. So you could pretty much draw that nose any way you want. I'm going to use the pencil tool. And I like pushing the pencil tool on you guys a lot at this part because it's so cool. And I have this idea. My pencil tool is set up right now with a fancy stroke from here. And it's also at 2 points. I'm not even sure I'm going to keep the stroke. We'll see. So I'm drawing some kind of nose-like shape. And I could just work with that, but I don't think I want to. So what I'm going to do, crossing it, I'm going to create a shadow-like shape to work with. But since I know I want to fill it, I made sure that I close the ends. As you see me before, I'll then get the black arrow, choose the parts I don't want. And I got to figure out what color I want to fill it with. I could have gone with a line. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just making a point. I think I want a darker orange to fill this with. So how would I do that? And I want to tell you something. This is something I use a lot. And I may have mentioned it before, but never seriously. I often need a darker version of my current color. You know, shadows and the like. It's a common enough thing. I have a nice method for it, right? If I don't have orange set up, I'll get the eyedropper, click the orange, and then I know it's going to be the current fill color. But I want a darker version of it. So what am I going to do next? I'll click a color chip, either here or down on the toolbar, because what I really want is this feature. This feature here lets me work with the current color in a beautiful way. This little rainbow-looking circle. Right now, I'm just talking about this. This here offers all the darker versions of that color. Show me what they look like next to each other too. Found a color I like. By the way, you could just use the color chips. You pick the color however you want. Just mentioning this, and I'm going to do this a couple times today. So I'm going to okay it. Fill this up. Now, this is just something I like to do. I often draw with shadows. I'm a painter, so it's something painters often do. I'm going to switch to the black arrow and start deleting the stroke, which I don't really need anymore. I think I'm going to lock those other layers so they're not of trouble anymore. She's got a subtle nose. I could change that color if I wanted it to be, you know, more prominent. But it's going pretty well. All right. Now, the star of the show today is definitely the mouth. Right? It's going to take some effort, so I think we're going to take a break first. But if you want to, if you just can't stop, maybe you got your momentum now, you can make a hair layer and figure out what kind of hair you'd like to give this guy. I draw a lot of bald people. But the guy reading the Raiden poem I showed you earlier today, he had crazy hair all over the place, which is kind of fun to draw. I would definitely put that on its own layer. You know, I'm not making eyebrows right now, which is also tempting. You know, some people like myself, we talk a lot with our eyebrows, and it really is very expressive. But right now, I want to stick with eyes and mouth, eyes and mouth. Okay, please save what you have. If you'd like to see it play as a Swift right now, we've been using Swifts as a preview. On Mac, hold down Command, tap Return. Otherwise, on Windows, hold down Control and tap Enter, just so you can get a peek, see how it's going. All right, let me just check the clock. It's almost 10:25. If we start at 10:50, We have plenty of time for the mouth. So let's do it. Let's take a 25-minute break, even a little longer because it's 10:22. I want to come back at 10:50. Guys, listen, be super clear with me. This is obviously very detailed, right? And it's mostly the concepts I would like you to have. I almost wish, I don't know how easy it is to download a YouTube video, but I almost wish that you could do that easily because it's hard won stuff, really hard won stuff. But I'm hoping you're feeling it so far. All right, anyway, I will see everyone in the room at 10:50. Do not be late. I'm jumping into a really complex thing, a wonderful, wonderful thing. You're not going to believe what happens. Just to give you a taste of this, we're going to draw a neutral mouth after the break. This is what I mean by neutral. Right? So it's not, it's just, and then inside of it, we're making a graphic symbol. There's going to be 11 more mouth poses. The crazy thing that this version of Animate does, this is a killer, is later on, you just connect it to your audio and it picks the right frames to make the guy talk. That's just unbelievable. It's automatic lip syncing if you draw the mouth properly and know how to set it up. It's just mind blowing. Suddenly, I'm not at all shy about making someone recite an entire speech. All the semesters before this, I'd keep my audio down to 10 seconds most because we were going crazy finding the right mouth movements. The right mouth movements. I'm having a hard time finding the right mouth movements. But now, if you draw them all, the set of 12, we just turn it on and it's unbelievably accurate. At least that's been it's just about a year old, this feature. So that's my current opinion. So that's coming up after the break. I'll see you all at 10:50, all right? On time. See you then. I'm going to stop recording for now. And stop sharing too, I think. Hello again. All right. Just want to, hello. I want to make sure that everybody's back. So I'm just going to delay like a minute or two. But I want to tell you what's going to happen next, which I think a lot of animators are always really curious about, how it works. Like, how do you really get those mouth movements to match the actor's performance? And there's a lot of different ways to do it. I think the technology is evolving, right now. But they all do involve a certain number of mouth shapes, and they're called visemes. And let me get my hand out in front of us for a moment while we get ready for this next step. Put this aside. Where am I? There we go. We did the blinking. Prepared the head, and now we're talking about this. So this is how you spell visemes. I've heard some people call it visceme. It's really hard to get an answer on how it's pronounced, which I think is kind of funny because it's really about the mouth shapes that match how we pronounce things. So it's funny that people are not sure how to say it, but I'm going to call them visemes. If you're curious to learn more about it, it's a very large subject. If you're just that curious kind of person, I included this Wikipedia link because it affects the deaf. People who lip read have a lot to say about this, and as well, of course, animators. But I want to show you something that I have in mind that you have a copy of already, by the way, in your samples folder. So I want to get mine out. Just give me a second to find that. Okay, and somebody got locked out. Let them in. All right. So in today's assets, we've got the 2 audio files, which we'll need soon enough, but I'm opening up this subfolder called samples. The ones marked 1, 2, and 3, there really are samples, but the one that say visemes are charts you're going to want to keep. I want to show you something in more detail. I mentioned this earlier, but we're going to need the details here. If you look at this one, there are 12 visemes. This is this cartoonist version of a neutral mouth. I guess is a happy person. So their neutral mouth is already a smile, but it's not an open mouth. And if you look at this one, ah, and make the sound yourself, ah, you could see what the idea is. They're exaggerating the openness of the mouth by showing teeth, by showing the tongue. And a good part of this really is going to be whether you're showing teeth or not, and tongue. Here you've got t, l, d, and this is interesting. That means Tom, Larry, and Donald all start with the sound mouth shape. And if you do it yourself, you make those three sounds. Remember, it's not the letter T, right? We're talking about sounds here. T, l, d. It looks exactly the same. I do believe people who can mouth read often get stuck on stuff like that, you know, because it could be any number of words in certain cases. So there's really no way that I know of to differentiate this. E is very distinctive, right? The corners of the mouth are way out. This artist is using the teeth to point that out, but the teeth coming that close, no tongue involved in that sound, E. But definitely, you know, a wide, narrow mouth. Fava is an interesting one. This person really exaggerated. The top teeth are right over the lower lip. You could see the lower, you know, edge of the mouth is hiding behind the teeth. And go fa, make the sound yourself. Be polite. But anyway, v is also the same. Teeth are really over the lip. Kind of interesting. Now, I want to tell you, I have mixed feelings about this part. I've repeated one. So I want to say something about that. One, people do it in different numbers of iseams. People do it with 8, which is significantly easier. People do it with probably over 20 for very detailed mouth movement. The Simpsons are not going to do that, you know, but I don't know about Disney, you know. So there's different numbers. There's no magic number. Now, the thing is, Adobe Animate uses 12 for the automatic feature, right? So I really want you to sink in. So I chose 12 basically to match the software that's already chosen. It thinks in 12. So I made 12. We're going to see really whether we had to draw all of these. And I may change, you know, really, like I said, it's a fairly newish technology, the automatic way of doing this. So I'm trying to grow with it. Right now, this seemed best to work with the 12 slots available. Maybe later we could see whether this is necessary. So there's that, I think, is the only copy. Here's M, which is all about the lips pursing. You know, you have to make the sound to feel it. M. The two lips are almost touching. And since there's no lower lip in this drawing, they're using this mark to show the pursed, the pinched lips. O, right? So not the letter O, the sound O, right? Big and round, no teeth, no tongue. And So when you make a sound, you say run. You could feel your tongue up at the roof of the mouth. I want to say something to you that's interesting about this. How often do you really see someone's tongue while they're talking, you know? I'm a pretty animated speaker, but you never see my tongue unless I'm sticking it out. So why would this artist make that choice? Well, part of it is to get the feeling of the letter. You know what it feels like when you go run, Ralph, right? You could feel where the tongue is. So cartoonists tend to exaggerate that kind of thing. I want to show you a more photographic version in a minute. But look at S and Z. Now, it's so similar to E that I'm probably going to copy E, which is also wide with the teeth near each other, to S and Z. It's subtle. This has got a different lower lip, very, very subtly, which actually makes kind of a difference. But honestly, at the rate we speak, no one would know the difference if you copied E and used it for S and Z also. Here's and the guy's showing his teeth on the top. And I want to look at this last one for a minute. This is not woo. It's just the W sound, woo, you know, as in walk. And they're making the argument that the mouth makes the same position as in when you go ooh. So it's both woo and ooh, woo and ooh. So the beginning of the woo sound is very similar to ooh. I don't really see it as this large, so I may make it much smaller. And you'll have a lot of freedom with this. All right, I want to show you something else. This is chart 2. And I'm going to say it's really kind of up to you which one you use. It may be easier to use chart one because it's so exaggerated. And then if you tend to do a lot of this and you're getting more comfortable with the sounds, maybe this one's going to be a little bit more useful later because it is really subtle. There's some differences that are very slight. Here's ah, and look at ah and they're so similar. You know, in they're really. I'm looking for more that are similar. Look at t, l, duh, right? That's already three sounds. Well, actually, there's really more to say about that. Look at That's similar to anything. Now, I want to tell you something. A point that one reason I'm looking for similarities is I'm always looking for ways to save drawing time. You know, let's just be realistic. So if there's 12 iseams you need, but you could steal one and modify it rather than drawing each one from scratch, we'll be able to make some progress because we're going to need to do all these today. Do you guys have a rough idea like what's in store here? These shapes are going to repeat to have this person recite an entire poem. All right. So here's one thing I'm going to need for you to work out. You're going to need to figure out a way to keep one of these open. I'm going to go with the first chart. I'm on a Mac. I just double click this JPEG and it opens in preview. I don't know enough about Windows to know the best way, but you want to get it open in some way where you could see it easily and keep it out. You're going to need that. And we want to get back to Adobe Animate. So what we're going to need is a layout, something like this. So here's Animate. Definitely going to be working here quite a bit, right? And I got to move all my zoom stuff out of the way. And then I got to somehow figure out how to get easy access to this. Yeah, everybody in here is going to do it a different way. I think some people are going to actually just prefer to make Animate a little narrower so they can keep them next to each other. You know, that's completely up to you. And I'm figuring out how I want to do it. All right, are we ready? Okay, the first step is drawing a neutral mouth. Now, that could just be a line. You know, really, that'd be very neutral. If you want to draw lips, it could be lips. If you look at mine, my face for a moment, since I'll be the model, can you see how the top lip is darker than my lower lip? And it's not really the color of the lip, it's the light. The way the shape of the top lip is, it dents in and creates a shadow on itself in many situations. Even with my computer beneath me, it still looks that way, right? So often I'll just draw a very shadowy upper lip and some kind of mark to define where the lower lip starts. You'll see what I mean. But feel free to improvise a little on this as long as you don't get involved in too much detail, right? Because we want to be efficient. So I'm going to use a technique similar to the one that I used for the nose, which involved the pencil tool, right? In smooth mode, which is the only mode we've used, right? And I want to show you what I've got in mind here. I think I'm going to zoom back a little bit because it makes it easier for me to draw smaller lines than having to draw really long ones on my touchpad. So I'm zooming out with Command minus. So what I'm going to do, and again, this is stylistic, so don't feel at all like we've got to work with the same styles, not even a little bit, is I'm attempting to draw an upper lip and I'm crossing the lines because I don't think I'm going to keep these strokes. I'm really only doing it so that I could fill it. I may fill it with this color even. But I think I'm going to get the black arrow first and clean it up. Take out the parts I don't want. I really love this overlap method. It's the only program I know of that really behaves this way. If I wanted to smooth it, I would double click it to get the whole stroke and go to the bottom of the properties palette where the smoothing button is. So let me just fold some stuff up, this one. Since I'm not going to keep the stroke, I definitely need a fill. And I'm going to borrow this shadow that I have nearby. So I'm going to get the eyedropper. Sometimes, you know, it always switches to the paint bucket. Sometimes I'll go get a paintbrush or some other tool that wants that color. In this case, I really do want the paint bucket. and I can get the black arrow if I don't want that stroke. It really is up to you, being the artist. I could delete some of it, like I did with the eyes, just leave that, or I could delete it all. That's the upper lip. Tiffany has arrived. So now I will need to do something about the lower lip. And you know, you don't want, if you're in merge mode like I am, you don't want to overlap this shape in any way. You have to be careful. Hi, Tiffany.
Hi.
Hi. Everybody knows you got support, by the way, for it.
Okay.
And later on, I want to touch base with you about Discord.
Okay.
People are very interested in. So right now, we just do this mouth here for the Vicemes, and I want to show you the way I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to use a shape, something like this, to communicate where the lower lip is. And I'm thinking out loud a little bit here. And since I'm going with this shading idea, I'm going to close this up too by crossing it. Remember, the pencil tool is really all about outlines. And I got to clean that up a little bit or redraw it. I could smooth it now, or I could clean it up. I think I'm going to start cleaning up these extra little parts from where they overlapped. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and fill it. Now my paint bucket still has the same color, so I'm going to use it. Now, if I don't want those strokes, they already did their job in terms of containing the color. I'm going to use the black arrow and get rid of it. So you can see I'm imitating the shadow from my own mouth, which is typically on the upper lip, as I've said, because light's often coming from overhead. But it's hitting the lower lip, and that's why it's so much lighter. I'm going to back off and see if I like it. Also, I just noticed I am completely on the wrong layer. So we're going to need to fix that up. All right. Well, I'm on the nose layer because I had the other layers locked. That was a little thoughtless. I hope that it's not going to be hard for us to fix it. I think some of you are also on the wrong layer. I'm going to find out what layer it's on. If you're not sure, just click it. It'll go right to the layer. Lock your other layers. If you lock the other layers, hopefully you'll find an easy way to select it. And Command X to take it out temporarily. One way would be to lock your other layers, click one of your shapes, hold down Shift and click the other one. Double click if there's strokes. Remember, you could select a shape, hold down Shift and select another one. But I'm going to take it out temporarily with Command X so I could put it on a proper layer. That was my error. When you're ready, you're going to need to make a new layer and call it mouth. And then I'm going to paste it there. Paste is usually Command V, but I prefer Command Shift V because it puts it in the same position. I'm moving it to another layer, but it'll go where it belongs. Paste in place. Very cool. All right, let me back off. I'm going to move that mouth a little bit. I think I'm all right with it. I'm going to save. Now look, very sorry about that error. It would have been better to make that layer first, you know, be very methodical about it. Your mouth is probably the most important thing in this. You really need it on its own layer. You're really going to misbehave if it's not, right? If you have any doubts about your layers, do a quick check, like I mentioned earlier. Hide them all, and then show from the bottom head shape. Oh yeah, that's correct. And the next one should be nose. All right, that looks good. I got mouth now. Here's the mouth. And I got the eyes up here. All right, I'm in good shape. I'm going to save it. The order is up to you. Okay. So the neutral mouth is about to be turned into a graphic symbol. We spent a lot of time with graphic symbols. This is a unique one, though. It's going to be the face of the whole set of vicemes, all of them, right? The neutral mouth, the shape your mouth makes between words, right? But we're about to get busy. So I need for you to select that mouth however you like to do it. If it's on its own layer, you could just click the keyframe. Be sure you selected the whole thing, though, however you're going to do it, right? If it has more than one part. All right, convert to symbol. This is a critical thing, and I have to make a big deal out of this. I'm simply going to call it mouth. I could call it vicemes, right? Because that's really the positions we're talking about. But this is the one that worries me. If you've been dabbling with this, which is okay, you got to double check. This has got to be a graphic symbol. It's not going to work if it's one of the others. All right, so you clicked it. You did convert to symbol. In other words, you right-clicked it or you control-clicked it. Chose convert to symbol, graphic, and okay. Here it is, a peek in the library. I got the eye in there, and I got the mouth. All right. We're about to go inside, so I want to make sure that everybody's caught up with me. You got your mouth, it's a symbol. We need to go into symbol editing mode. So I want to repeat from earlier. I could double click this, or I could double click it in the library. I'm going to double click it here on stage in this case. So I'm in symbol editing mode for the mouth. All right. Now what I want to do, because it'll help us stay organized, is I want to make an additional layer just for labels. And off the top of my head, I'm not sure I've shared labels with you before. It's a convenient thing that helps you, see what you're doing. And this is the way I'm going to label them, right? I'm going to name them right after these. All right, I'd like you to join me on this. It's going to really help you understand this much better than otherwise. Could everyone make a new layer? Now, I want both these layers to be 12 frames long. So go out to 12 and F5 it. There's going to be 12 keyframes in there. Now, the upper layer is going to have a set of labels in it. I want to show you what I mean by using the first keyframe. I think what we better do, though, is this. Could you just name that upper layer labels? And let's name the lower one vicemes. Different mouth shapes. Now, what I'd like for you to do is this. Go to that first keyframe on the labels layer and have a look at your properties palette. When you click a keyframe, the properties palette shows you this label area where you get to name a frame. And we're going to write in here neutral. And when you click out, look what happened. Right? There's a little red flag and it says neutral. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a blank keyframe in every slot of that layer. We're going to come back and label them. You can only put a label on a keyframe. So I'm going to make good use of a feature down here. Just give me a second here. See if it lets me get to it. I'm just going to have to widen this out. Thing I want, I can't show you. Give me a second here. At the bottom of the timeline, sorry guys, I just have to rearrange stuff, is this feature that lets you zoom in or out on your keyframes. I want you to make them as big as you can. And it's a little disorienting, but it's going to help us see the labels. I use this little slider down here just to get really close. I only need to see those 12 anyway. All right. On the labels layer, click in the next slot. You want to use insert blank keyframe. So you could right click or control click. Go to the next slot, do the same. Right click, choose insert blank keyframe or control click. Keep doing it. until you have all 12. You know, in a way, one could easily argue that this step is not necessary. It's not essential, but it's going to help a lot. I've been doing this in my own work. I think a lot of you are going to want to do the same. So just the top layer, not the lower layer. We're not ready yet. The top layer is just for labeling. So we're going to need to get at this stage is one of the sample charts, right? It's in today's assets in the sample folder. This is the one marked chart 1. So I could see the second shape supposed to be ah. So I'm going to click the second keyframe. Go to the properties palette, right in the label area, and I'm going to write ah. Then I'm going to click the third one. That's t, l, and d. That shape is all 3 sounds, any of the 3. So I'm going to click that keyframe, go to the label area, and I'm going to write t, and I have to separate it somehow, remind myself that that's not one sound. Separate it any way you like. T, l, d. I'm going to go to the next one. E, that's double E, because E, like an Eka mouse. So I'm going to the next one. It's a double E. So it's not eh, as in bed. It's distinctly E. The next one is both f and v. You know, fall and Victor. Victor falls. So I'm going to the next one. F and V. 2 different sounds. I'm on the 6th slot. So you really want to make sure that you're, this is one of the ones I have the most doubts about. This is t, l, and d again. And later on, we'll look into this and see why that's necessary, or if it's necessary. But right now, I'm going to stick with it, because I've done it before. It works well. Clicking in that 6th frame. T, l, d. Go to the next keyframe. M, with the pursed lips. So I click the keyframe and I'm going to write that sound. The next is oh, like oh yeah, oh dear, or just bowl. Oh. All about the tongue, even though you don't usually see it, like I was saying earlier, you do feel it, with that tongue up against the top of the mouth. The next one is both sa, like Sam, and z, like zoo. And if you make those sounds, you could feel it, how similar the mouth shape is. S, z. So, S and Z. Closing in now. And then we have tub, for example. And then the very last of the pile is both w, as in walk, and oo, as in ooh. That looks good. I want to get both those sounds. There's 2 different sounds. It's definitely not woo. All right. Please save again. Be sure to save again. All right. That's the organizer, right? So we're going to be working on that lower layer. We already have the neutral mouth. So what we're going to have to do is a lot of winging it, you know, a lot of open-minded thinking about the drawing tools as we try to get the sounds we need. Now, in both the charts I gave you, this cartoon one, which by the way comes from Adobe, it's Adobe's own chart, you know, and the more photographic one, chart 2. I keep saying more photograph because they're not. They look photographs. It's some 3D artist's chart, you know, but they look like photographs. They both show you there's a lot of leeway. You know, the mouth moves so quickly that there's no way anyone's going to say that mouth position's wrong. But you still want it to be pretty believable. as much as possible, right? So I'm going to keep consulting the chart as I draw my own versions of it. I want to give you some ideas how to go about it, because we really do want to speed things up. The second sound is ah. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my neutral mouth, copy it into the next frame, and alter it. So this really has a lot to do with the style that you've been using already today. You're going to have to find a fairly simple approach. So here's mine. Here's the first frame, the neutral mouth, and I could F6 it to get it into the next slot, or I could option drag the keyframe over. So you either F6 it to get it here or option drag. I'm going to option drag it because I'm going to be doing a lot of that kind of thing. You know, I want to be careful that I actually succeeded. I got a new keyframe there. So I could have F6 or option dragged or alt dragged the keyframe. I'm in the ah place. And so now I want to show you what I'm going to do to make it look a little bit more like this. Ah. Well, one, I think I'm going to be able to raise the top lip. I may even lower this shadow under the lower lip. And really, most of that sound is this big hollow, the dark space in between the upper and lower lip. So look how I'm going to go about it. I'm going to go back to some pencil tool thinking. It's a little different than what we've seen. I think you're going to really like this. Check this out. This line is still going to act like a border. So look what I'm going to do. I'm going to cross it and make sure I cross the shadow too. I'm going to cross this one and make sure I cross the shadow too. Then I want to get myself a dark color to fill this with, and I want you to see how it's going to behave. I'm getting the paint bucket. Currently has this orange, but I want a much darker color, right? So you might remember earlier today, yes, you could choose any of these. You definitely can. But if you want to work with your original color, you could click this little rainbow wheel to find darker versions, as I mentioned earlier. But at that point, you could also see nearby colors you might like more. I might want it redder because it's the inside of the mouth. I'm going to pour it in there. I'm going to take that black arrow and just delete the stuff I don't want. It's interesting that I only had to draw the outside because my other shapes were acting like a border. And you can go in and change anything you need to with any tool. Now, do I want some teeth? Do I want the tongue? You know, frankly, I definitely would like one or the other. So I'm going to mention some ways that I could go about it. There's a lot of different options, but here's one. If I want that white bar of teeth here, I could use a number of different tools. I'm trying to pick one now. Well, I think I'm going to go with the pencil tool method. So here's the pencil. I'm crossing that line. I'm crossing this one too. And I'm crossing it again. I'm going to get my paint bucket. This time I want white though. I'm going to fill it. I'm going to get my black arrow and delete the strokes. Some of them are hard to get at, so I may really need to zoom in a lot. Click it, delete. It's pretty cool. So I'm using the black arrow just to create borders where I don't have one. You know, the upper lip gave me the border. I didn't have to bother tracing along it. You know, I just came down from that upper lip. All right, I'm going to do the same thing with the tongue. I'm going to take some of this area here. I'm getting my pencil tool. I'm going to do a little cartoon tongue stuff. Okay, and I'm going to want a redder color. So I'm going to get my eyedropper. I think I'll start with this color. Click the chip, use that wheel that I've been pushing on you guys today to adjust it. Do I want it darker? Do I want it lighter? Do I just want one of these that are nearby? And I'm checking here to see if I get what I'm after. This is the new color. The one beneath it's the last one. But you could pick the color right off the swatches if you want. There's definitely nothing wrong with that. And when you want, if you don't want the strokes, you could keep them if they look good. But if you don't want them, throw them out. And save as you go. I'm going to back off. I want to show you something kind of funny. And right now, he's just randomly cycling through those mouth positions. Once you're done with that, you go to the next slot. You see what it is. It's ta, la, da. And since, you know, we're new to this, I want to look, right? And it's a narrower mouth than ah. And it's got more teeth and less tongue. Can I copy ah and work with it? I'm going to try, right? So I'm going in the next slot. I could F6 it or option drag it. I'm stealing ah. Now I'm in ta, la, da. Sounds crazy. And I keep on looking, you know, it's a tighter mouth. So I think what I'm going to do is select the whole thing by clicking the keyframe and use the transform tool first to make it tighter. Ta, la, da. The teeth are really a big deal here, coming close to each other. So I'm going to get my pencil tool, I think, and extend these teeth a bit. So again, I do really want to make sure I'm overlapping stuff so the paint bucket is easy to use. I'm asking for trouble because I released that so many times. I still have white, so I'm just going to fill that. And I don't want my strokes. I'm going to need a lower mouth, so I'm going to do something similar. And, you know, if this is a very odd drawing system, I really got to tell you honestly. I've been teaching drawing on the computer for many years, over 20 years. But this is really kind of a unique system, the way Animate sees it, which I really quite like. I'm going to go back and clean anything messy up, but I just want to get to that lower part of the mouth. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the pencil tool. I'm going to kind of like map out where I want those lower teeth. Do I want that a little higher? Maybe I want that a little higher. Let me just do that over. I'm overlapping something that's going to act as my border. Oh, that's a sloppy line, man. There we go. And as long as it overlaps stuff, see the tongue here is going to behave as a border. So I don't really need to work any, this is in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to get my paint bucket. I'm using white and I already have it, so I'm going to click in there. You know, let me think about that. What am I saying about the tongue? That was a bizarre thing. I don't want the tongue. I'll just click in it. It already had its own borders. Let me get rid of these. I can go back and clean this stuff up, right? But I don't want to take forever while you guys are waiting for me. I do want to mention something, though. There's that little bit of tongue that the cartoonist is using. The other chart I gave you doesn't show any tongue there at all, so it's really rather optional. You know, we could keep using the pencil technique, you know, draw a little line here, draw a little line here, fill it with red, right, to imitate this. But I just want to remind you of something we were doing with the brush tool recently. You know, you may remember that the brush has the ability to paint on one color and ignore the other colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that paintbrush, the regular paintbrush, this one, right? I'm going to, for now, I'm just going to pick a random red to make my point, right? But I need to show you, need to remind you of something. Let me just pull my whole toolbar out for a minute. Didn't mean to do that, though. There we go. Because I want to show you something about the paintbrush. The bottom of the toolbar has got this. And we've used this a couple of times, but not a lot, right? And Paint Normal, well, you know what that is. But I'm a big fan of a few of these, especially the one called Paint Inside. Because what that means is when I start on one color, it will only paint on that color. You know, for example, if I started here, that's what I get. So right now I'm going to use that, but here. And it lets me be a little loose about it. And there's the tongue. So I can neaten this up, but I think I'm spent too long on one position. It looks like he's talking. All right. E. Right? Now listen, folks, I really don't mind if you move in front of me. If you're going that quickly, you just go right ahead. Right? You know, join in if it's helpful. E is kind of similar, right? It's a little narrower top to bottom. It's more about that stretch that the corner of the mouths have. Definitely not about the tongue, but it's close enough to this that I'm going to try to use it. So I'm going to copy this by option dragging it over to the next slot. Now I'm on E. Zoom in. All right. I think I want that a little narrower top to bottom, not a hell of a lot. Don't really want the tongue there. So I'm going to figure out how to extend the white of the mouth. I think I'm going to just go back to the pencil. Make a little border for myself. This could be smaller. Really, the pencil's a little finicky. I want to get out of this shape, but it doesn't always stick. That time it did. So I just want to exaggerate how close the teeth are to each other. Let's see if I can get away that very sloppy line I just made. Paint bucket. Rather, I'm going to borrow that white and then pour it in there. Get rid of the stroke if you don't want it. I want to mention a quick way to get rid of the tongue. You know, when you click on a color with the black arrow, you get that whole color. So there's the whole tongue. So really what I could do right away is get the eyedropper and tell it what color I'd rather use. And it's gone. So if you missed that and it interests you, here's the point. Let me back up. The black arrow is just going to select an object, however it sees it. In this case, it just sees that red. So I could switch to the eyedropper, and this time it's just going to adopt the color. I don't even have to pour it in with the paint bucket. Boom. I'm kind of done with E. Sloppy though. I can't bear it. I'm going to have to fix it. I'm going to do a quick fix approach here. I'm using the rectangle tool. And I'm just letting it merge. It's a little better. Huh. V comes next. F, V. So I gotta somehow, it looks about the same size as E, but it's really all about the upper teeth. Now I gotta figure out some way to pull that off. We're all gonna do this a little differently. By the way, if you think any earlier version is more useful to you, option drag it into that slot if you think it's more useful to transform it. I'm going to try it with this anyway. I'm going back to E, copying that over. Guys, this will be worth it. You know, actually, this semester, we're going to be able to do this an easy hour quicker than any other semester because of an upgraded feature in the program. All right, so I'm trying to make this look like, so what I need to do is somehow make that upper mouth feel, that upper row of teeth rather, come further down. I'm going to try it out with the rectangle tool again. Setting it to white. Don't think I need a, there we go. Don't think I need a stroke on it. I'm going to start here. pretty exaggerated. So I may be pushing my luck here. I think I'm just going to erase a little bit, erase the corners. There's a lot of improvisation involved with this. We'll let it be. So I just bumped into something I can't allow since I have to have the right tool. All right. Well, very exaggerated that one. Not utterly thrilled with it, but I think I'm going to let it be. I could mess with it some more. You know, I was arguing earlier that I forget exactly why I have da twice, but I don't want to argue with it now. So what we're going to do is just steal the earlier one. In other words, the 6th keyframe in this case is the same as the 3rd one. And we'll see whether this really proves out to be worth it. But right now I want to stick with it. So I'm going to go to the earlier version under the label da, hold down Option and drag it all the way into the new slot. That one's done. Tiffany, come back. Come back. Hey, listen, you know, you had 2 jobs today. Can I give you the day off? They're fine. People missed you, by the way, so don't think you're expendable. I need you. But today we're doing great. And you've earned it, you know.
I'm good. I just need to rinse my face and move
Wash your
around
face.
a bit. Yeah.
All right. So the next slot is right, which is really, you know, fairly easy. It looks a lot like the neutral mouth, right? So I'm going to go steal the neutral mouth and adapt it. The very first frame was this one, neutral. Very similar to going m, like mom. So I'm going to copy that keyframe, Option drag it all the way over to the slot for m. And I want to think about how I might exaggerate it. I want them to feel more pinched, you know, like the 2 lips are closer to each other. So maybe that's all I'm going to do. Maybe I'm just going to take this top lip, bring it down a little, take this lower one, bring it up a little, you know, let me see. Maybe I'll change the curve a little bit. They feel more squeezed. I think that's going to work kind of nicely. I'm going to save what I'm doing because I did a lot and I don't want any sudden crashing. You know, and if you wanted to take a peek in Flash Player, you could see the guy's already looking like he's talking. He's making random sounds, but it's encouraging. You know, very encouraging. All right. Oh. So I'm getting tired, but I do this anyway. I'm trying to see if I have anything I could steal to give me a head start on the next one. None of these feel too O-like. That's kind of close. I think I am going to steal it. You know, if you even look at the way the cartoonist did it, well, he did it very differently. He just made a big oval for O. I'm going to copy my and work with it. I'm going to make it a little rounder somehow. You know, take out the teeth probably. Take out the tongue. I'm going to go ahead and take this Option drag it over into O. Hope you guys are okay. I know this is intense, right? But if you want to make people talk, you're going to have to deal with this. All right, so here's O. And I'm going to take the teeth out. I'm going to click it with the black arrow, get my eyedropper, and borrow the color of the inside of the mouth. I'm going to get my black arrow, do the same thing for the tongue, select it, get the eyedropper to borrow the color of the inside of the mouth. All right, much closer. If I want to make it rounder, I'm hoping I could get away with this just by moving stuff around with the black arrow. That doesn't look like it's going to be too promising though. So what I'm going to do instead, what am I going to do instead? I think I'm going to erase some, try to make it feel rounder, a little more O-like. And then take these and delete it. Here's the eraser. Oops, that was weird. That doesn't happen again. And I could just erase the rest. I don't really have to keep switching tools. I just, whatever strikes you is easier. So listen, I think everybody in here is finding their own way to pull this off. I didn't really like that at all. I should have been looking what I'm doing. There's a lot of ways to get to the same goal, right? So we're just going over suggestions, how to do it. Come on. Computer's starting to fight back for some reason. There we go. I think I want to see if I could smooth this. It got really, doesn't look so great. I'm going to select the whole thing and use that smoothing feature, which I am openly in love with, at the bottom of the properties palette. So look, it's not showing up. All right, that's because I clicked the frame instead of the artwork. But it did select the artwork. So if you look up here, I got the choice. I'm talking about the object, that's the drawing itself. So if I'm not seeing it, it's selected, but I'm not seeing smoothing, I'll just click object here. Smoothing. And this one definitely needs to be fixed. Not too confident in that one, but I'm going to let it be because I may be getting too picky. And we're in the R slot, and here it is, I'm looking to see if there's anything similar to it. It's a little bit like E. I think I could work with E. Similar size, they both have teeth. All right, so I'm going to start with E and copy it over into this slot. So I'm looking at my labels, and here's the E sound, E. I'm going to drag it into here and see what changes I need to make to produce this. A little less teeth and a little more tongue. I think what I'm going to do is get the rectangle tool. I think I'll get the eyedropper first. I want to borrow the hollow color of the mouth, this color right here. And I'm going to take my rectangle tool, make sure it has no stroke, because I think I could just make less teeth by doing this. But I want that tongue over here. And there's a lot of ways. I'm going back and forth between different methods so people can figure out what they like and what works for you. I think I'm going to use the pencil tool method. I think that's probably a favorite. So I'm just going to have that kind of squeezed between the teeth. That's really all that I need. And I'm going to pick a color. I got the paint bucket, and I'm not saving colors right now, so I'm just going to wing it. Just choose a color from the swatches. And with my black arrow, I can get rid of those strokes. I'm going to save, grab a peek. So comes next, the next slot. And I'm going to consult one of the charts. That looks so much like E, doesn't it? I'm definitely going to steal the EE again and bring it into here and work with it a little. I'm coming back, option dragging on my Mac. I'm in the Z slot, the 10th slot. And it's really just a little rounder on the bottom is the way the cartoonist is describing it. And I'm going to run with that. Get my black arrow for that. With nothing selected, I'm just going to round things out. More of a S kind of shape. I kind of like it. Really can't stand these little edges there. But, the perfectionist in me is going crazy for this, but I got a class waiting for me. All right. You know, is quite a bit like O. I think I want to make a point here. Oops, got a little lost. Hang on. I'm going to get this chart back up. Here's and here's O. There's really, sorry, O right up here. And even though the cartoonist didn't see it as too similar, I want to show you something for a moment. Where'd that go? Sorry, I have stuff all over my computer because of Zoom. The host gets all this weird stuff to deal with. All right, let me just open up a new folder here. You remember how there were two charts? We've really only been using the cartoon one. But if you look at this one, O and that's really hard to tell apart. You know, but really, I could definitely make it very, very similar if I wanted. So I am going to take O here, copy it into back away a little bit. And I could just leave it I'll give it some teeth. So I get my pencil tool and I'm going to just draw out the top teeth. As long as it crosses anything with a border, I should have a pretty easy time of filling it with the paint bucket. One more to go. I know we're all going at different speeds. Some of you are faster, some of you slower. It really depends on the style that you're working with. You know, and frankly, how much you've been doing in Adobe Animate this semester. The last shape, W and U, the very last, it's going to be pretty exciting after this. You know, I'm not really confident in this cartoonist version of it. You know, I got to say, this is a little weird, really. I'm going to look at what I have. Here's that's the closest thing that I've got. I think I'm going to go with it. All right, I'm going to drag this over. And I want this to be quite a bit rounder and smaller because the lips really purse around the W. And it's really different, much smaller than and w. You know, you have to do it yourself. A lot of cartoonists would keep a mirror next to themselves for this. That'd be a great idea. But I've been moving my tools around. So I'm going to make it smaller to start. In both directions. There's not going to be any teeth here, so I'm going to take the teeth out. Click my teeth with the black arrow. Use the eyedropper to steal color. Well, this really should be round. I think I am going to have to use this color with the paintbrush so I can get some lips on the side. I'm going to get my eyedropper since I know I want the lip color. And I'm going to go get the paintbrush, the regular paintbrush, not this one, the plain old classic brush. And I've got to remind you, it's all about these options. I'm going to use paint inside because I want to just paint over this brownish inner mouth. There's paint inside. As long as I start here and not here, I'm fine. I have to come back, clean that up a little bit, but it's not going badly. I'm going to get what I can out of this tool. And then choose what tools I need to perfect it. Oops. I think I am going to use the paintbrush again, but just in normal mode. Just trust myself a bit. Whoa. Ooh. Ooh. You could smooth anytime you want. I could smooth the whole mouth or just part of it and see how that goes. You may think I'm being very liberal about this, and I kind of am, but I'm pretty confident it's going to work. I'm going to back away here, and I want to play the whole thing. And it does feel like he's talking. I'm going to save it and go back into the movie. Remember, you were inside the symbol, the graphic symbol for your original mouth. At first, it was neutral. So in the library, that's the way it looks. That's the neutral position. But as soon as you double click it, you see all the vice seams you just made, all 12. So you do have to remember to leave and get back into scene 1. 1 second, because I lost everybody's faces somehow. Give me a second, I'll be right with you. Where's everybody? In a minute, there we go. I lost you all. I'm back. Hang on a second there. I got so much stuff moving around this screen. All right, listen, I would like people to let us know. Tiffany's back. She's gonna, keep her eye on the chat, so in case I miss it. How many people would like a few more minutes just to finish their mouth positions? You could either let us know via chat. You could just turn on your mic and shout it out.
Calista says me.
Okay, that's fine. So listen, I'm going to just narrate a little. If you're still working on the vice seams, concentrate on that. I don't want to move ahead just yet. So I'm going to go into mine again just to say a couple things about it. I'm going to, I think I'm going to double click it right here so we could see it against the head and zoom in. One thing that's kind of interesting, if you ever watch old animation, and that may be true of like original Mickey Mouse animation, but anything that's super duper simple, South Park for that matter, especially the older South Park, they're using as few mouth movements as possible. And they're hardly believable. It's just so consistent in the world of the show or the world of the movie that the eye accepts it. There's some things it won't accept. If you draw a S sound and the person's going, oh, it's going to feel funky. But if you're in the ballpark of the sound, the eye just totally accepts it. I'm sure you've seen people who speak like this. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you today. That person has like 3 vice seams in their whole life, and they're a living person. So don't get too uptight about the detail. It's the spirit of the sounds. And if you like doing this at all, by the time you've done it the 10th time, you'll just be guessing better. And you may not even need the charts necessarily. So I'm looking it over. This is definitely a neutral mouth, a mouth at rest. Ah. Tom, I could see that. E, definitely, I'm happy with that one. Fuh, I don't know, pretty exaggerated. Not thrilled with it, but I'm going to keep it. This was a copy anyhow. M, I like that one. I think that works pretty good. O, oh, I'm all right with it. I believe it. S and Z. Oh, what happened to my S and Z? S. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And last. W or O. All right. Make sure it's saved. I am going to move forward, right? So I want to tell you what to, by the way, you're actually almost done. So I got to show you how the rest is going to work. So the way it worked in the recent past, you would actually listen to the audio yourself, find a particular sound, and then locate one of your own vice seams. And there's a whole system for locating that. And then you move on to the next sound. So if someone says Tom, you'd find your T, drop it on the timeline, you find your Ah, then you find your And man, is that slow. But thankfully, we don't have to do that now. So I want to show you the way we're going to do it. But step 1 is to go get the voice. We need the voice for that mouth. So right now I'm going to talk about importing sound. All right. Could everyone join me with File menu, Import, Import to Library? This is the best way to bring in sound of any type. Right? We're going to bring in the voice reading a poem now. File menu, Import, Import to Library. Find wherever you put today's assets. Did you put it on your desktop or is it in downloads? This import window wants you to find this. Rain poem done. And just click open. At that point, go have a look in your library, see if it's there. When you bring a sound into the library, it even has a tiny, tiny play button. Last night, the rain spoke to me slowly. All right. So, the sound must be imported into the library to use it at all. The next thing is we want to make a layer for it and drag and drop it on the stage. All right. I'd like you to make a new layer. Call it voice. These last steps, I really don't mind going over again. I really don't. Right? But I'm making a new layer. I'm calling it voice. And that's where the sound's going to live. It's got an empty keyframe. So my new layer is ready for me with a blank keyframe. I go to the library and you simply drag and drop it on the stage. Here it comes. Dragging it right out of the library. Got a plus sign. I drop it anywhere on stage and you can see it show up. So the sound is there, but it doesn't match the mouse yet. The mouth. Last night, the rain spoke to me slowly, right? Saying what joy. It's all right. We imported, Tiffany, it's a new one, new sound. So we imported the audio into the library, created a layer for it, and dragged it out of the library and just dropped it right on the stage. But now we have to tell the mouth about it. Now I want you to keep in mind, you might have, this is a poem about rain, so you might add sound of rain later. So there's going to be more than one layer of sound, right? So right now we're working with a specific layer called voice. Did you rename your layer? Right, don't leave it untitled. This layer particularly, I have a reason. So I'm calling it voice. All right. On the main stage, so be sure you're not in symbol editing mode. Right, you're back in the scene. I want you to click your mouth only one time. So you're clicking the graphic symbol, but you're not in symbol editing mode, right? You just click in that neutral mouth because that's the first frame. That's all we could see. And then have a look at your properties palette. So I want to be very clear about this. The sound has to already have a layer before you could do this. Then you're ready to turn the mouth on, so to speak. So you come click it once, look on the properties palette, and I need your exact attention on this because this one's really hard to show you. It's easy to do though. At the bottom of the properties palette, you should see this area called looping. So it's at the bottom. So if everything's open and you can't see it because your screen is small, fold some of the other sections up. Looping. So you click the mouth once, come to looping. Now, if you look over here, these three buttons, this says to loop the graphic, just play that over and over. That would ruin everything. That's what it's doing now. Here's the one next to it. Play it once. Oh, that's not going to help. This is the one you want, the third one over. Play single frame for the graphic. And we have a little more to do, but here's the idea. There's 12 frames inside that graphic, right? It's going to play one at a time, and we're about to tell it what order to go in, but it's not going to loop through them. Just keep looping it, right? It knows to play one at a time. You do have to click that. Then, finally, click the big button that says lip syncing. Now, I want to talk about this. We're going to need to work on these, and this will only take a few minutes. But I want to point out that there's number one, set up your vice seams. Number 2, sync with audio layer. So if you had more than one audio layer, you get to choose here. Right now, it probably knows and chose yours. Just be sure that it's syncing to the voice layer. Now, I imagine I might have lost some people. I'm getting nervous about now. But I'm going to finish this and then see if I can do it again. Just the last steps. So if you look at the first slot, neutral, that is a neutral mouth. But next to it, it says ah. Could you click on the one that says ah and notice what it does? It's showing you all the ones you drew. So you pick ah. Then you go to the one that says duh. Click it. And we have t, l, duh, right? We could use for all 3 of those sounds. Click it. And you go one by one. E. And you find E. Now you labeled these. And if you didn't label them, you're having a hard time right now. But if you label them, it's pretty easy. You go to F and you find that. L and you find that. Right? Very the same. Go to M for M, I should say. M. And work your way through it. O. S. One click each. And lastly, W and oo. Not woo. But that's all right. So if you set up all 12 and the sync is set to the correct layer, click done. It's taking a little while to figure it out. And I want to show you something on my timeline before we celebrate. My mouth layer gets past the silence, and look what it did. It chose the sounds. And before you do it, I want you to check this out.
Last night, the rain spoke to me slowly, saying what joy to come falling out of the brisk cloud, to be happy again in a new way on the earth. That's what it said as it dropped, smelling of iron, and vanished like a dream of the ocean into the branches and the grass below. Then it was over.
And then a loop, because we're in a Swift.
Last night, the rain.
Yay! Listen, make sure yours is saved. And I'd like some reactions. So you could play it right here. It'll work right in there. Yes, cool, Marilia. It could work right here. You don't really have to make a Swift. You could just rewind your own timeline right here and just play it right here if you prefer. Just make sure you can see what you're doing and that you're on the main scene.
Last night.
Right. If you prefer to see it as a Swift, remember Command Return or Control Enter. How is everybody? Excellent. Excellent. Great. Hey guys, listen, could you be sure to leave your names on? Listen, if you're uncomfortable because of YouTube or anything, you give me just the first name. I think that would be okay. Remember, I use this for attendance, and I have to confess that I just cannot remember names. I'm literally name disabled. So, it really helps. Because if I don't see your name right now, I just took screenshot. I'm always embarrassed because I'll guess names and get it wrong. Jacob, do you have a name on?
Yeah.
You do?
Wait,
Oh, there, it just
name?
showed up. That was
Yeah.
weird. Hey, but I got it right anyway, so point for me. So it's looking good, huh?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. Does anyone want to screen share theirs? Anyone feeling nervy? I'd love to see a couple of them. Jake, are you feeling
It's not bad. I think I'm good.
was that a yes, I'm gonna screen share, or a no?
I'm good. I'm good. No.
You're good. All right. I know a couple of you guys are, always anxious to share stuff. Does anyone want to volunteer? No volunteers yet at all. I can't blame you. It's the first time and it really is very strenuous. I want to mention a couple things before we go over whatever there is or discuss it. I want to say something about sound quality, and also what is a good export choice for us. So let's start with that export choice. What about GIF? We've been using GIF all semester. Well, guess what? Too bad we can't use the GIF right now, because GIFs don't have audio. Right now, the Swift that I was using has great audio, but it's not good really for most things nowadays. It's really mostly best for previews. So we need good old video. And if you're feeling ready, I do want to say a little bit about exporting video, and I'm even going to demonstrate it. So yeah, most of you, that's going to be the norm. You're going to output a video, if you're working for television, for sure. But even if you're working for an animation website, they're probably going to want those animations delivered as video. So we have a few kinds of video to choose from. Two come to mind. MOV, right? That's a QuickTime movie. And it used to be the standard video file, .mov. And preferably MP4. So if this is blinking and talking.fla, I'm talking about blinking and talking.mov, which I could give to my client, or blinking and talking.mp4. So I just need to say one quick thing because I'm not sure how this is going to play out. Adobe programs often use this thing called media encoder. And we've actually been through this once before when we were doing video in Adobe Premiere. So when you export the video, it wants to use this other tool that Adobe offers, the media encoder, for the export process. So we're in the animation program, and it's going to ask us for the media encoder. And I don't really know whether you guys have it installed currently or not. So I'm just going to do the demo first, and then anyone who wants could tell me if they had issues with it, since I'm not in the classroom where I could walk around and see. So here's the idea. I make sure this one's saved, and I'm going to go to the File menu to export. And it's not export movie, which is very misleading. It's export video media. So File menu, export video, and media. I'm going to take a look here. It's asking me if I should ignore the stage color. We never gave it a stage color. It's asking me to ignore it. And why is that? Well, if I wanted to put it over another video, maybe I did the background in After Effects, right? So for us, this really isn't going to matter too much. I'd like you to leave it off. Don't check it. Leave it off. So it's going to render it at the same size, which can be changed because vector art, so we can make it any size we want. But right now, it's going to make it the same size. It's going to do the whole movie. Now, this is the two things I need for you to really look at, though. This one, format, and this one, output. Let's look at format. Lots of choices, all different kinds of formats. Right? The one we want, even though we're producing MP4, we don't see it on the list. And this may sound familiar to you because I said the exact same thing when we did video together. This is a method. It's a codec. It's a compression, decompression method. It takes everything and squeezes it in to what? Into an MP4. So this is the one we want most. H.264, strangely, will make us an MP4 movie. Now down here, I just want to check that it's going into the right folder. So right now I have my original sitting on the desktop, and that's where my MP4 video is going to go. If you don't like that, click this little folder icon and tell it where you'd rather it go. It's up to you. But I'm okay with it going on the desktop. This is a must to check. This is a must to check. And now I want to draw your attention to this. This says Start Adobe Media Encoder. That's the program I was talking about. It piggybacks with Adobe Premiere. It piggybacks with Adobe Animate. I'm going to leave mine on, and I think I'd like to show you what would happen if I turned it off. But let's see what happens now. Now, the first time I do this, it's probably going to open Media Encoder if it's on your computer. There it goes. if I keep doing this throughout the day, it's just going to use the open media encoder without even showing it to me. It's just going to do it all in the background. Now, right now, it's going through the process without my help. It opened the media encoder, but it did it. And now it's telling me it succeeded. I'm going to click OK. I want to make sure that that worked. Let me just put this aside right now. And it's on my desktop, in my very messy desktop. So I think I'm going to find that a different way. There's my MP4. And I can give it to anyone with a video player.
Last night, the rain spoke to me slowly, saying what joy to come falling out of the brisk cloud.
I'm going to do it again, but I do want to talk about what's going on and just be a little clearer. Videos don't loop by nature, or we're used to watching things repeat. This won't repeat. That's okay, right? I want to get back into animate. A second there. So when everything's done and saved, you want to make a file that includes the audio, right? It's file menu, export, export video / media. The big things you want to check is this, H.264. Now, I checked Start Adobe Media Encoder, and I knew that I already had it on my computer. If that doesn't work for you, right, and you're feeling like you want to export videos on your own time, go into your Creative Cloud account, find Media Encoder, and load it. You know, frankly, you animators, you're going to need it, just to be blunt about it. But what would happen if I just did not have access to it and I unchecked this? What would happen? Let's find out. Creating other file types in the meantime. I'm very curious to see what it's going to do. I don't think it did anything. I want to go look on my desktop. That's not it. All right. I want to give you another option then. File menu, export, export video. This is just for those of you who don't feel like getting Adobe Media Encoder or in a situation. I'm going to mention this. Under formats, if I find MOV, oh, sorry, they call it QuickTime. That doesn't need the encoder. You don't make an MOV version of it. So there's two good options. The one I like best is H.264. You're going to need the encoder. Or uncheck the encoder and choose QuickTime, which is also very good. And it's still used for all kinds of things. I'm going to export now. If I go to my desktop, I got everything, right? Here's my MOV, here's my MP4, and of course, my original. This has been a big day, and we are going to get out early today. I hope that's good news. But I do want to see how everybody's doing. I'm checking my chats quickly, even though I have Tiffany here. Any questions for me? Thanks, Callista. Thanks, Jake. Lots of thumbs up. This is great. You know something? It's funny because we had a much harder time with something easier weeks ago. Lately, I'm just figuring out how to make it work Zoom-wise, you know, what we need. I'm very happy that so many thumbs up. So, you know, I think I just want to mention one thing about sound quality. It's kind of nerdy, but I just want to double check something with you guys. And then a little bit about what you could do on your own. There's no official homework for this. I just want to say, right? But I do want to show you this one sound quality issue. some of the outputs just don't sound as good as the original file. And you may need to make a change. I'd like you to check something out with me. But first, I want to show you that it's also on the handout for anyone who's tired at this stage and kind of had enough. So these are all the steps we took today. It's a very detailed handout. I think it'll help anyone who wants to do this again. But right now, I'm up to this. When you're ready to export. Oh, you know, something interests me. We didn't even make one change today, and yet everything worked. I'm kind of surprised by that. You know, I got to come back to this for a second. I'm going to need some feedback from you to help this. I must be having a lucky day because I skipped something that always struck me as important. I want everybody to join me. Can you make it to your timeline? I'd like for everybody to click right inside your voice layer. So there's a waveform in there. Click anywhere in the waveform. Then I want you to look on the properties palette so we can learn a little bit about that sound. So you click in the waveform for voice. You come to the properties palette and you should see this sound area there. It says sync. Now mine is set to stream. What is your sync set to? Any volunteer. So you click in the audio, in the layer, go to the properties palette. You're looking for this section here where it says sync. I'm thinking a lot of you guys may be set to event. Is that the case? Jacob, are you in event? Your mic is off.
Most of us, I think, yeah.
Yours is set to event, not stream?
No, wait, hold on. Is it supposed to be stream?
It should be, but if it worked, I want to point something out. You know, guys, can you guys watch this? I apologize for having skipped this, but I want to show you guys something. Take a look at my timeline for a minute, right? And I want you to look and listen. I've got my sound, and mine is set to stream, right? So watch this.
Last night,
I could stop. I could start.
the rain
Now, if yours is not set to stream, I'm going to imitate it. Clicking in the sound, coming over to sync, and I'm setting it to event. Now, since your teacher, who meant well, skipped it, I'm thinking you guys are in the event sound. It's very easy to change, but I want to tell you why it's a bad thing. If I want to play, stop, and start, look at the way it behaves.
last night,
Or I could stop. Let's see what happens when I start to play again. The sound's not playing. There are cases when that's going to drive you insane. And it's amazing that we got as lucky as we did. The good news is you could fix it like that. Stream was made specifically for voices. Because in the past, you'd have to keep stopping the playhead. Oh, the person just said, oh. And then you'd figure out which drawing to use for oh, right? Because it wasn't automatic yet, right? So you had to keep stopping and playing. But even now, you might choose to stop and play by using your return key or something like that, you know? So I would like you to switch it to stream. And all you do again is you click in the sound, come over here. It says this clearly on the handout, which I was ignoring, where it says sync. If yours still says event, set it to stream. And all that does is it looks at your frame rate and it says, oh, this person's working at 24 frames a second. So it makes little 24th of a second bits of sound. You know, it doesn't look different on the timeline, but since they're little 24 bits of sound, I could put the playhead anywhere I want and play. The event sound only looked at frame 1. You know, not too interesting really, very nerdy. So let's just simplify it. Click in your sound, set it to stream, and you will be happier. So if you just set yours to stream, please save it. And I want to show you this last thing about sound quality. At least in the old versions, the program was set to export a low sound quality. And I was thinking, gee, this sounds better than it used to. So I went and I looked at the sound quality to see if it had changed. Now, I don't know if I'm the one who changed it or whether it just comes that way with Animate now. So we're all going to check together. So it says here, go to File and choose Publish Settings, right? When we go to the File menu, choose Publish Settings, we're looking for this thing called Audio Stream. So here we go. File menu, Publish Settings. So every time you export, you're publishing, right? File menu, Publish Settings. And we're looking for Audio Stream. And you just want to check that yours is set to 160 stereo, right? Because if it's set to something lower, right, which it used to be, it'll make a smaller file. That's nice, but it'll make junky sound. And that's not nice. This is like CD level sound, if you remember CDs, compact discs. So make sure it's set to 160. And you could just okay your way out of there. Hey, Tiffany, was yours already set to 160?
I haven't checked.
Yeah, so File menu, Publish Settings. Everybody should have a peek, because if we're all set to 160, it means Adobe just changed it. And we don't have to bother anymore, right? File menu, Publish Settings. And we're looking up here. If it says 160, you're good. I see a thumb up. So Callista, did you have to change it, or was it like that? I could check the chat. So yours was set to event. That was my fault. We all changed that to stream. Now we're looking at the actual sound quality. And yours was already set to 160. So I'm guessing if Callista's was set to 160, that has to be the default, and it's no longer a problem. So it affects me more than you. I'm going to just delete it off the handout. Does anybody have any questions for me? No? Folks, I'm going to wrap it up then, and I want to just say a couple things to you. A lot of you guys took MMP 100, which was Intro to Multimedia, and several of the teachers, including myself, because I teach that course also, spent time in Audacity. Today's poem was recorded in Audacity by me, obviously. And it was cleaned up in Audacity using all the tools there to try to take out some noise, even though I heard some noise still at the beginning. But I used Audacity to clean it up. In Audacity, I export it as an MP3. And it's something I like to do as an animator with my own voice. If you're interested in trying this with your voice, you could use probably just about any good audio program. If you have Audacity from the past, Audacity is free, and there's plenty of tutorials online about how to use it. It's a great program that's free. You could record yourself with the mic on your computer, and in a couple of clicks, even use it on this one. You know, just take your mouth layer out, put it back, right? So that you could connect it to your sound layer. Remember, we brought in my voice as a layer, but you could bring in anybody's voice and just turn it on, which is a pretty cool thing. So it doesn't have to be my voice. Anyway, I'm shot. I'm sure you are too. I can barely think anymore. My own voice is starting to sound like a distant echo, 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 echo. So I'm assuming nobody has any last minute questions or anything? No? So guys, listen, I'm not going to pressure you, you know, like in class, I walk around to individuals and I'll be like, hey, Zach, how's it going? Hey, Harold, how'd that treat you? And you choose whether to show me or not, you know, but, you know, here it's just like, hey, you, so I'm not going to do that. I almost did, didn't I, Jacob? That was close. He escaped me. But, you know, hey, now, for those of you who are into it, we have Tiffany to thank for Discord. So I'm new to Discord, tried it the first time this morning. But, you know, if you get proud of a movie you made, right, we could post them to Discord, can't we? Tiffany, your mic's off, though.
I'm pretty sure you can. You're supposed to be able to post the pictures and stuff like that on the Discord. If not, you can. They also have a kind of like a video thing, like what we're doing now in Zoom.
Right.
Kind of have that in Discord too.
That's live, right? Like I
Yeah,
love the
that's
idea
like
of
if they want to share, or if they kind of like group together, like study group or something.
so
they could
say
share.
like it's like 4 a.m. and one of us wants to share a movie. Can't they post it and say, hey guys, tell me what you think? And then the next day people can answer if they want.
I think so. I have to really check, but I think you can.
Yeah, if
You
you're
can
feeling
post the
generous,
pictures.
try it. Post something. You could show them some of your work if you want. I know you have so much good work if you feel like it, just so people could comment and get used to the idea. I guess one of us would have to break the ice. But this is your baby, at least for now. So listen, everybody, I'm going to let you all go. Check out Discord if you like. I just chose the short link at the bottom, and it to walk me through the whole thing. I'm just gonna. I'm still screen sharing, so I'm gonna just mention this one last time. Wrap it up. And also, Tiffany has not heard from me yet, so I just want to mention this to her also. Here under the Discord section, if you just want to learn about Discord, there's a cool video about it. But also here where it says how to set up, Tiffany wrote an in-depth how to set up, and I made it into a PDF. You could just click here and read it. But all I did today was take the shortcut, because here it says, once you're set up, use this link to join our group. I just went right here and it just told me what to do. And now I'm in the group. So it was actually incredibly easy. I just clicked this one link that Tiffany gave me, and then it just walked me through all the steps. So for those of you who don't have Discord yet, you could just jump here. And those of you who are experts at it, I'm assuming this is the link you need to connect your account to our group. Tiffany or anybody else, is there anything anybody wants to add to this conversation about Discord, animation, or life in general?
No.
So in that case, I just want to, I see some of you are commenting in the chat, which I appreciate also. I want to wish everyone a Thanksgiving. I'm a very political guy. I'm a lefty. I'm kind of a hippie at heart. So I usually say wise guy things about, you know, please invite a Native American over to your house and apologize, and jokes like that, because I don't like rewriting history. I don't want to make believe that we were all that friendly, the people who colonized this country that wasn't theirs. But Thanksgiving doesn't have to be political. It could be as simple as it sounds, giving thanks for whatever you're thankful for. So I just want to say for a record, I'm thankful for you guys. We're warming up to each other. It took a long time on Zoom to create any kind of, you know, group environment, but I think that's happening. Definitely the homeworks I'm grateful for. They always lighten up my day when I look at those. And just for allowing me to be your tour guide for this adventure. So I want to thank you. And on Thanksgiving, I hope you have something to be thankful for in the middle of a very bizarre year. No comment beyond that necessary. So happy Thanksgiving. And so not this Friday, next Friday, I'll see you. People who are backlogged on homework, please read today's handout, because all that information about late work. See you, everybody.